All right, what is going on, everybody? The Xbox 2 podcast is live. I am one of your hosts, Randall419, the man with the million, and with me, as always, the man who makes the show run late every single week. Made it run late this week. It definitely Jez's fault. So if you have any concerns about how late the show starts sometimes, and we are about 6 minutes late, then send all questions and comments to my co-host, the one and only Jez Corden of Windows Central, who turned 52 yesterday. So let's give Jez a very happy birthday. What's it like being 61 years old, Jez?
What's with the mega trolling intro, man? First of all, I wasn't late. That's fake news. That's Rand's absence of mind that made us late. Because I was sitting there innocently waiting, playing Overwatch. And Rand's just there moaning about something I can't even remember. But that's why we're late. It's all Rand's fault, really. That's the truth. And excuse me, sir, 52, 61.
Yeah,
I am the youthful age of 26. I'll have you know.
the youthful age of 26, more like the youthful age of 70. Happy birthday, buddy! It was yesterday.
It was yesterday.
How was it? How was the birthday? How's being 49?
Well, being 49 is amazing, and I'll tell you why. Because and this pretty much proves that I'm old. I pretty much slept just all day. That's why I do my day off. I slept all day. So I did plan on playing some games, and I did play a little bit of games. Hence the gameplay footage you are now seeing up on the screen. If Rand actually downloaded it, as he claimed he did.
I did. I did.
I haven't loaded up the stream yet. But yeah, I didn't do a whole lot. But my girlfriend made me a strawberry cheesecake, homemade, which was incredible, I'll have to say. And I had some spaghetti. So that's pretty much the best thing about. That's the gameplay footage you are now.
Whoa! I just heard
Echo
you.
there.
I just heard you.
Yeah.
What's going on?
Yeah. Correct, an echo.
So,
technical problems.
Enough with the trolling. Enough with the trolling. I hope you had a great birthday.
How
old are you really? You know, I'm 41. I'm
36.
41. And you're 36.
I'm 36.
Okay.
Oh God. How did you feel when you were 36?
What was that? Like 5 years ago?
Yeah,
so that would be 2017.
I feel pretty old now, man.
Yeah, I mean, wait till you get to your 40s, bro. Wait till you get. I mean, you know, once you hit your 30s, it's pretty much all downhill after that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sitting here with there's a bit of lower back pain right now, and I'm feeling it, man. And it's like, I look at 26 and 36, and I'm thinking like, oh God, I'm closer to 40 than I was to 30. And it reminds me of being 26 and thinking that. When I was 26, I thought, oh God, I'm closer to 30 than I am to 20. And now here we are again, experiencing it for the next time.
I'm waiting for my midlife crisis because it hasn't hit yet. Right? I'm 41. You know, there was actually a part of me when I was in my 20s that I was like sure I wasn't gonna reach the age of 40. You know, and that's obviously just like a little bit of more, like not goth Rand or anything, but like, more depressed Rand back in the day, back in high school, living homeless in a car in the winter. I'm like, man, I'm never going to see my 40th birthday. And then I saw it and I'm 41 and some people get that midlife crisis. I wonder when that will happen for me.
I feel like I've been in a midlife crisis since I was about 20.
Okay.
It's just one long non-stop.
I mean,
midlife
I guess
crisis.
you could say we're all just experiencing midlife crisis because we like Xbox, right?
Oh man, well, think of me, man. I'm a Blizzard fan and an Xbox fan, so I get a double whammy of pain.
Yes, you do. You do get a massive double whelm. Yeah. This is hopefully today doesn't throw a wrench in your bucket. By the way.
Oh my God, I was on Defining Duke this week, right?
Shout out to Defining Duke, Mr. Matty Plays, and the one and only Lord Cognito.
Yeah, and I made reference to the wrench in a bucket thing, and they both went silent, and I was like, oh, I forgot that this isn't my show. So I was like, they don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. So it's just like, what did he just say?
They're like, huh? It was supposed to be like wrenching your plans. You know what it was supposed to be?
Wrenching your plans?
Whatever, like a monkey wrenching your plans, bro. Like a wrench in your plans.
It's wrenching the works, man. Like
whatever.
Works like a machine. You said it wrong twice.
So many wrenches, so many buckets, as OBM says in the chat. Indeed. Well, hopefully everybody's having a great time in the chat. Thank you for all being here. It's there's a lot to talk about again. And, I mentioned this earlier to you, Jez, and I think I said it in my video on Wednesday. You remember how I said that Jim Ryan was giving me life? He brought me back from the dead. I wasn't really making a lot of content on the channel, because it just was. But then, like, Phil and Jim started fighting and the whole Xbox Activision thing, and I was like, oh, this is really, like, he lit a fire under me, and then I started doing more regular content and stuff like that, so it's like, all right, I'm back, baby, I'm feeling it. And I know there's a lot of people, because I see it on Twitter, and I see it in the comment section, that are like, I am so over all this stuff regarding Xbox, Activision, the CMA, PlayStation, all the stupid nonsense that constantly goes on from two companies with business interests, one that doesn't want the deal to go through, and the other that is trying everything in their power to make it go through, and the intermediary and the government intermediaries that are either allowing it to happen or blocking it from happening, potentially. And I think I hit that point where a lot of people have hit, where I'm also sort of getting sick of it already.
Yeah.
Like, if it was, it would be one thing if it was once a month. Or like, once a month, that's awesome. But it's like almost twice a week now for like, I don't know, the past month and a half. Where now it's just like, all right.
Yeah.
I think I'm at that point now. I hit my wall. I'm still going to try to have fun because there are some things said that don't make a lot of sense. That don't make a lot of sense. And we gotta talk about it. But we do have a great show planned for you guys. I have a bunch of topics here, so if you guys can do us a huge favor, make sure you hit that like button, share this out on social media to let everybody know we are live, and subscribe if you're new. I just hit 89,000 subscribers, which is incredible. Only 1,000 more to go to 90. Hopefully I can get that this year, and then onwards to 100K, and then eventually, cameras and whatnot. But I said it'll be done if I hit it, so we'll do it. So, but yeah, as you all know, this show is we are kind of backed by the members of the community who support us on Patreon. So shout out to everybody on Patreon who have signed up at all the different tiers. And we do have a Patreon producer today for the show, who is Ralph Wiggum, who you usually see in chat. He just started his Xbox YouTube channel, and he wanted to say this. He said that his channel is going to focus on Xbox Series X playthroughs, and he's also starting to be more active on Twitter. So please give him a follow on Twitter, or just drop by his YouTube channel, and he would greatly appreciate that. So in the description, you can see a link to his YouTube channel and his Twitter, so make sure you give Ralph a follow on Twitter and check out his YouTube channel if you have time. So thank you, Ralph, for being the Patreon producer this month. Now, Jez, last week we had the problems with the text sticker, but we fixed that because you actually gave me the information earlier, so we're all good. But I know you're not prepared for this next thing, because I'm going to ask you, hey, it's time for the Xbox, tier for Patreon shoutouts at the beginning of the show.
Oh,
do you have those ready at hand, or did you forget?
Give me 1 minute.
See.
I'll get used to this eventually.
Yeah,
I'm a busy guy, man.
You're a busy guy. You're on Defining Duke on Wednesday. We got the Xbox 2 on Fridays. I should make mention that I am now going, at least Miles down PA, has nicknamed me Randall Weeb. So
Why?
I guess because I don't let a guy finish one anime in his life, his first anime, and suddenly he's a weeb, right?
You are a weeb.
That is not true. That is definitely.
See, I haven't even seen Vinland Saga, so you're more of a weeb than me now, bro.
Bro,
I'm out of date. But I do have the shout out Patreon list.
There you go.
If you want me to just quickly go through it. This Reaper's just about to kill me, so that's good timing. Okay, so here we go. The Patreon shout out here, which is everyone who's a Xbox 2 MVP. Stegsman, new member. Thank you very much. Randolph 419. Also a member of the Xbox 2 MVP Club. Thanks, Rand, for supporting your own podcast.
Well, it's our own Patreon, so what would I be if I didn't support our own Patreon?
Yeah, that's true. We've also got Silas, a new member, Eric Gregory, Elijah Vasquez, Jacob Larson, James Moore, Matt Salinas, Catriox, Ricky Felon, Nerdy Meathead, Bright Tundra, Jasper Shapp, Joseph Campbell, Discarded Caboose, Xbox International, Justin Duell, Frank Marino, P-Bro King, Justin Miller, Asa T, Matt and Madison, Untidy Tim, Grizzly Mofo OG, Governor Grimm, DZ Huffin, Justin Sego, Andrew Courtney, Wagaman, Achievement, The Scarecrow 121, Darren Torpy, Professor JJJ, Butterball, Ghostface Killer, Wolfgang KPZ, and Ralph Wiggum. Thanks to everyone who's an Xbox MVP, and a big shout out to our latest Xbox MVP, Randall419.
Yeah.
Himself.
Yes, that's me. So thank you guys for supporting the show. Links in the description if you want to join the Patreon and help us out. We did just do our second exclusive Patreon show, the Xbox 2 Ultimate Show, on Tuesday. So that is there for you guys to check out, and I think we'll be doing another one in a couple weeks here. Towards the end of the month, towards Halloween. So that should be a lot of fun.
I'm also I'm going to make a little Patreon announcement, actually.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
I'm actually going to start. There's going to be a new tier added to Patreon. Well, a new benefit. It's not really a tier. We're going to add it to all the existing tiers from the Xbox 2 show and upwards. Every month, I'm going to be doing a giveaway of some random Xbox headset, a random PC accessory, basically a random review unit that I've got in stock and can't do anything with. So that'll be like random headsets, mice, keyboards, all sorts of random stuff, because can't sell them for ethical reasons, can't store them because I've got no space, and more often than not, the companies don't want them back. So might as well, give them to you guys. Costs money to ship worldwide, but we will ship them worldwide, and that's why it's going to be part of the Patreon. So you'll get some benefit out of it, some actual material benefit beyond the lovely feeling of supporting me and Rand.
Yes.
Yeah. Thanks to everyone who's been supporting us. It's awesome. Yeah. And do we have a Manscaped read this week?
No, we don't. No Manscaped this week. End of the month. Cool. So,
but the code's still active.
The code is always active for Manscaped, which is XB2. But yes, thank you to the Patreons. Links in the description to check it out. And we got a lot of topics, and they're already starting here in the super chat with some questions and the membership questions. We got one from Highlander, who's been a member for 3 months. Says, "Hey guys, hope everything's doing good and doing pretty well. Jez had actually given me a lot of the info early, so I was able to make adjustments on the fly before this started, so it's all good. But then he ended up joining the call late, and we started late, so,
I didn't join it late. I literally joined it at 9 o'clock.
Yeah, that's fair. You should join it earlier, because I'm in here, at 1:45, 1:40.
I was doing something. I was making a cup of tea or something. I don't
know. He wants to know if can the CMA kill the Activision deal? I believe the answer to that question is no, it cannot.
They can't kill it, but they can potentially delay it. The CMA's findings will definitely have an impact on other regulators. So it's kind of like, it's almost like a test run for the more important countries. Because let's face it, the UK is not an important country anymore. It's a sort of joke country these days. We've gone through 3 chancellors in 6 months or something now, or 4. No, we've gone through 4 chancellors in 1 year because our government's a complete and utter shambles, which we'll get into in more detail in a little while. But yeah, anyway, they can't stop the deal, but they can throw a wrench in the bucket potentially. And they can sort of make things irritating, and they can ask for random concessions. And push comes to shove, it could end up in court. Microsoft will win because the CMA never wins any cases ever, unless it's for national security reasons, per the ARM deal recently, which the UK did block. But beyond that, no.
Yeah.
There could be some really annoying stuff for the UK market. So maybe in the UK, Call of Duty isn't in Game Pass just for the UK, which will screw over UK consumers, right?
Yeah, but the CMA doesn't care about consumers. They care about PlayStation.
Yeah, they care about PlayStation. So yeah, it's gonna be fun to watch. And if you're a UK consumer, buckle in because you're about to get screwed.
Yeah. Soul Reaper says, Jez, please tell us what you know regarding State of Decay 3. The silence on this game has been deafening. I know that's one of the most anticipated games that you have. I mean, you like State of Decay 2. I felt it was too much of like State of Decay 1.5.
Yeah, I did. I felt that way too about it, but I like State of Decay 1, so it was just like, more of the same. I'm okay with that, But yeah, I don't know a great deal about the current state of State of Decay 2. My last little sort of cache of information I had about a year ago, which is where I found out they were focusing more on the characters, and they wanted to sort of make it a little bit more, I don't know, personal, sort of. So like you actually care more about the characters. That's a big focus in the next one. But beyond that, I'm not exactly sure. It's something I'm trying to research though. So stay tuned, I guess. But analytically speaking, if you look at like how much hiring they've done, how many studios are involved now, and how Undead Labs has become like a multi-studio studio with lots of little development hubs in loads of different locations to take advantage of local talent. I believe they've got a little studio hub in Texas, another one in California, and a bunch of random places. I can't remember exactly where off the top of my head, but they're all over the place and they're all remote and stuff like that. So I've got high hopes for it personally. I got really high hopes, and the coalition supposedly contributing on the engine side, and we all know the coalition are the masters of Unreal Engine, so I'm pretty excited for it.
I saw a comment here by Dad versus Rock, and it's Rand. He wanted me to do a poll about the average age of the Xbox 2 audience. So I thought that was interesting, so I'm going to do that.
Well, can't we just look at the analytics?
Well, we probably could, but let's just poll the audience, see if they're being truthful. So I'm putting up a poll here. Let's find out the average age of the Xbox 2 audience. How old are you? And I have 20 and younger, 30, 40, or 50s and older. So what do you think? What do you think the average age is going to be, Jez? Let's ask the people.
30.
30? You think it'll be in the 30s?
Yeah. Average age would be 30.
Okay. Yes. Let's keep on going here. I also saw a tweet from you where you kind of teased something that said it was a document and it said code names on it.
Oh yeah. About that.
About that. Let's talk about that, shall we? You haven't told me any of this stuff, by the way, which I'm upset about because most of the time you normally do. Because I love code names and all this stuff. So
I saw it in Futures, in our backend, in Windows Central's backend. It's an article by Zach Bowden, so it's probably Windows or Surface related.
Oh.
So I know you don't care about that.
Nobody cares about Windows and Surface. Like we care about Xbox code names. We care about Xbox.
Did you not watch the Surface event this week?
No, I don't care. I don't care about Microsoft. I care about Xbox. I don't care about anything else. Am I the only person? Like I know people like Microsoft fanboy. Like I only literally care about Xbox. I don't care about Surface. I don't care about Azure. I don't care about Office 365 or whatever others thing. I don't care what the rest of the company does. It doesn't matter to me at all. I only care about Xbox. Am I the only one? I couldn't care less what the rest of the company does.
Everyone else here loves Surface.
Nobody else here loves Surface. Nobody else does.
They all watch the Surface event. They're all really hyped about it. It's just you, man. Only you hate Surface.
No, that's
right, guys. Back me up, guys. Back me up,
no,
please,
no.
guys.
I bet you nobody else watched the Windows event because nobody
It was
cares.
actually, it was a huge traffic driver for us this week. We had like our best traffic week since Elden Ring this week.
Oh,
So,
really?
yeah, but a big part of that was the RTX 4090 launch, which I
Yeah.
thought was really funny because like all week on the PC gaming subreddits, everyone was saying, vote with your wallet, don't buy the RTX 4090, and it's already sold out.
Yeah, but I mean, you knew it was gonna sell out. That's not a surprise. What is it? 82 teraflops of power, right? 82 teraflops of power, as big as a Series S. Doesn't fit in most PC
beefy
cases, right?
Yeah, it's a monster. We've got a review up of it. It is a monster, and especially if you factor in some of the new AI stuff like DLSS 3, I believe it's called. I can never remember if it's DLLS. No, it is DLSS, right? If you factor in some of that stuff, you can get like really crazy frames on it. Like some people call them fake frames because it's like artificially intelligence added frames or something. But it's pretty impressive tech. You know, it's a beefy boy. And apparently the RTX 4090 Ti has been killed off because it was so powerful that it was frying GPUs.
Oh.
I read that somewhere. I don't know how true it is. Some people saying DLSS 3 sucks. I don't know, but I've only seen the benchmarks. I haven't really, looked at that much in depth, and I haven't looked into it in depth because I can't afford one. So that's the long and short of it. I'm just happy with my nice little Xbox. 4K 60 is enough for me personally.
Yes.
And it's probably enough for Rand as well, right?
I mean, yeah, I'm a console guy. I'll probably always be a console guy. I don't play on PC. I'm of the opinion you can play wherever you want, and if someone wants to play on PC, more power to them. That's just not for me. I like console, so you can call me a weirdo or a peasant or whatever. I'm perfectly fine. Space Channel 5 says in the super chat, thank you. He says, it's Friday night. I got a bottle of vodka and I'm 28. 66% of the statement is true. Okay. I wonder what it is. It's probably he's not 28. I would say it's probably the lie. Jacqueline Branch, who took advantage of the Patreon tier of being on the Xbox 2 Ultimate show as a call-in, because we actually got that working, or at least I got it working, because Jez still hasn't figured it out yet. He goes, Jezel, thoughts on the PlayStation Xbox logos found inside some World of Warcraft backend code? Impending release of or another wrench in the bucket. Happy birthday, buddy.
Thanks. I knew he was going to ask about this, and I still haven't watched Asmongold's video. Sorry, mate. But yeah, Asmongold put out a video, and some people in the World of Warcraft data mining community noticed that the latest Dragonflight build, Dragonflight's the next expansion, and it's currently being tested in closed beta, although it's virtually an open beta now because pretty much everyone's been invited to it. They've data mined PlayStation and Xbox controller iconography in the files for World of Warcraft. Now, does that mean it's coming to console? So far, my research still suggests no. And if you actually go back about a year ago, Blizzard did announce that they were going to bring controller support to the PC version. So it's not completely unexpected what they're doing here. That being said, one of the big things they did do to Dragonflight this expansion was completely revamp the UI, because the UI was like very old school, very designed for PC. And in fact, it was so old that you needed community mods to make it modernized and viable. But they've sort of revamped it and modernized it now. And part of me wonders, like, man, if the default UI is good now, which it is, it's actually good, then you wouldn't even need UI mods, which is pretty much like one of the arguments for World of Warcraft not being on console, was that it needed all these UI mods, which you couldn't install on a console, right? So potentially, maybe this is like the first step of a long journey towards bringing it to console. Because a lot of things would have to change for it to work on console.
Yes.
But even now, people do play it with a controller. There's a mod for WoW that lets you play it with the controller, and even transforms the UI to look a little bit more like Final Fantasy 14 when you are connected with the controller, because you can play Final Fantasy 14 with the controller. So I think they're probably thinking like, well, we've pretty much maxed out everyone who's going to play it on PC. Why don't we just do it? So I think there's a good possibility we could be on the road to getting World of Warcraft on console. But in my research, my sources, there doesn't seem to be any indication that this is happening just yet.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for that. We have Raiden Blade in the Super Chat saying, so what's the damn point in buying a serious console when Sony plays to block the console's full capability? Xbox needs to hurry up with their games ASAP. I mean, I definitely agree with the second part about the games need to hurry up and get here. I think people are, they're tired of waiting. They want to see Xbox and the full promises that they've made with all their studio acquisitions. So yeah, I don't know if Sony's paying to block the consoles for full capability, but that is something that Sony is worried that they will do with Call of Duty, that Xbox will make it better than the PlayStation version. We'll go over all that stuff when it's time to go over it, which is definitely going to be an interesting conversation. The one and only John, aka Sick, a Mechanico, on the Forge console, Forge console at 343, officially making Forge maps for 343. He's here. He's also the co-host of the wonderful Xbox Era podcast. They have one good host being John and one bad host being Nick. He says, just want to show some love and appreciation to you two gents for ragging on Nick as much as you do. Keep up the good work. That's what we're here for, man. We're here to rag on Nick as much as we can, right? I like doing the Xbox Era show, not because of Nick, but because of you, John. Because you've always been cool and suave, You're making some cool like what has Nick done? What has Nick made? You know what I mean? Like really, what is his talent? Right? Like you got you got Jesse over there basically doing all the reviews for the website, right? He's reviewing Scorn, he's reviewing like NHL and all these different games. He's basically reviewing everything. You're the brains behind the operation. Is Nick just a Twitter face? Is it like, I'm going to run the rumor mill, and that's how I'm going to help Xbox Era, and I'm going to bug people on Twitter so they come to my podcast?
Well, Rand's just coming for everyone today.
Well,
I say everyone, but really I just mean me and Nick.
It's just, I'm having a fun time. Nick's a friend of mine. I just have to give him shit. It wouldn't be an Xbox 2 podcast without some, shade thrown at Special Nick, right?
Randall Savage.
Yeah. Dark Cia, member for 39 months. Damn, that is a long time. Thank you. He says, I was hyped for the news feature. For the noise canceling in Windows was great, Jez. Happy birthday. Have a great show, guys.
Oh, yeah. That was a pretty cool thing. Like, this is actually relevant to gaming, actually, potentially. So one of the things they revealed during the Surface and Ignite festivities was the first implementations of OpenAI into Windows. So, for those who don't know, Microsoft has exclusive rights to commercial applications of OpenAI. And if you don't know what OpenAI is, you might have seen it in memes recently, because all those AI-generated images and all that AI stuff, AI audio, and some of the memes we've seen flying around, AI art and stuff like that, all that is made by a consortium called OpenAI. And the first sort of implementations that Microsoft are going to do with this have started emerging now. For example, one of the things they want to do is you'll be able to generate images using Bing. So you'll be able to type wrench in a bucket into Bing, and if it can't find a good image from another website, it'll magically generate one, right? But for gaming, it's going to be interesting because they can do that for 3D models, right? They can be generate a 3D model of a wrench in a bucket rather than have an artist do it. So the artist could go and work on something more complicated or something that's more stylistic. And if you just want to generate some random background object, which doesn't matter, potentially you can just have an AI do it. So we're starting to see Microsoft's AI stuff emerge now. And one of the things they demonstrated, Rand, which might even help the podcast, is sort of like AI removal of background sound. So like it enhances your voice while also removing any background audio from the channel. So they could implement that on Xbox Live as well. You know, when you're trying to play games and you know you've got your screaming partner or your screaming parents in the background saying, "Get off that Xbox." The new AI will strip that out for you, maybe. So I thought that was pretty cool and interesting. But as a techie guy, Rand's gone to sleep.
And you talking about Windows or something? I snoozed for a second there, bro. Like I said,
Yeah.
Don't care about Windows. Don't care about anything else Microsoft does. Whatever. I'm happy.
Well, I was just
I'm happy that you like what you like, Jez. I'm happy that some of the people in the audience like what they like. Yeah, I blanked out.
It might
a
lead
space.
to,
If the camera was on me, you would have seen me looking off in the direction to my left and just staring over there while I'm just barely listening to Jez. You know, like.
Well, one of the, I don't know. It could lead to better AI in games though as well, which is what I'm hopeful for when it comes to this AI stuff. But yeah, maybe it won't. We'll have to wait and see.
Okay. So we have a super chat here from Midnight. It says, "Can the UK stop the acquisition? I'm hearing that you can block the deal over there." I mean, there's things that can happen. If everywhere else in the world approved it except the UK, Microsoft could take them to court, sue them, right? They could come up with some concessions to get it go through. Things like that. Like, the only way it really gets blocked is if, like, everywhere in the world blocks it. Which I think is highly unlikely. I still think it's highly unlikely the deal gets blocked anyways. There's a reason for this. There's a phase 1 and a phase 2 for this stuff. Right? Because if phase 1 was all that mattered, then they would already be having proceedings, but they go to a more in-depth independent panel for phase 2. And that's why Microsoft was very aggressive with their responses towards the CMA, because they felt like they were taking a lot of third parties' opinions as sort of like facts in this case. Yeah. And that third party opinion just happened to be PlayStation, the one that doesn't really want it to happen. And PlayStation's, bread and butter, their dominant market is the UK. It's where, I'm sure Jim's got a lot of friends over there. So I'm sure, they're probably, I think we'll talk about that when we get there. But yeah, I mean, if you want a good analysis of all this stuff, like, look, I'm not a lawyer. I don't even have surface level knowledge of any of these things. I just kind of look at statements made by these companies and be like, all right, well, this kind of reads true. This kind of reads like bull. What's going on here? If you really want somebody who knows what they're talking about, there's always Hogue Law, an actual lawyer, a mergers and acquisitions lawyer. So, I would go check out his channel, because I am just a 41-year-old male and that likes to play video games and read fantasy and sci-fi novels. I am not... you shouldn't take my opinion, or you shouldn't take my analysis of any of this stuff like super 100% seriously, because, like I said, like I went to college and dropped out at Northern, and then I went to community college for a little bit. So it's like, yeah, I don't have the education to kind of talk about that like that. But thank you for the super chat though. Goldshield says the Surface event was cool. So more people do like the Surface stuff. Soul Reaper says, I cared about the Windows Phone until I had one. Me too, man. I got the Windows Phone because I wanted to get achievements on it. And as a phone, I thought it was kind of shit. And as soon as it died, I got an Android. And then I got rid of the Android and got an iOS. And I don't really care about either. If you want to talk about console war between PlayStation and Xbox and Nintendo and PC, have you seen some of the warring that goes on between the phone companies, like iOS or like iOS and Android? Like, woo, it can get pretty, intense, and I don't really care about either, because I don't really use my phone that much. I just happen to get an iOS this time, Because people will seem like, oh, Android's better. It's like, I don't care. Like, in 2 years, I may get an Android phone. It doesn't matter. I don't care about any of this stuff. They're just phones. Whatever. I don't even use them that much. Achievement.
I actually, I much prefer phone wars to console wars.
Oh, okay.
Much prefer.
Because you're not, yeah, okay. Achievement says, I'm on Act 4 of Scorn. Act 3 was kind of brutal. I don't know if he means brutal as in bad or brutal as in like brutal. But definitely there's been a lot of mixed opinions regarding Scorn, which is the gameplay footage up right now that everybody at Patreon voted for. Jez played it for like an hour and a half. He's got some good things to say about it, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. Flame says, Range forgot my super chat. It's the first one. I must have missed it because it's no longer there. So just at me in the chat again, and I'll read it off, Flame. Sorry. Supernova says, Jim, dance moves, crying line, jumping in the arms of CMA Ryan. Okay.
These nicknames for Jim Ryan are getting crazier by the day, and I'm here for it, frankly.
These names are getting... What was the one last week? Like Jim, crying, line, dance moves, flying, saving Private Ryan, something like that?
Yeah! Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
I think that's my favorite one so far.
It's
if
really
someone can come up with more Jim Ryan memes, I want to hear them.
Raiden Blaze says, hey, Mr. Harrison, SIE killed Stadia with your help. Stadia has no games, and SIE made sure by blocking games like Resident Evil Village from other subscription services. Yes. So we got the poll, Jez. We have roughly 700 votes, 682, about the average age of the Xbox 2 audience. And what do you think it is? What do you think won out here? What do you think the average age is? Okay. So we got 8% 50s and older. Right? It's like, Jesus, in 9 years, I'll be in that group. Kill me now. So we don't have a lot of old geezers in the audience. I am an old geezer, but we don't have a lot of old geezers in the audience. I can't believe I'm going to be 50 in 9 years. What is that? 2031? Oh my God. 20. Well, you got a tie for 26% with 40s, which is my age. Right, so shout out to everybody in their 40s.
They're the old geezers.
20, and then the other 26% is 20s and younger, which is anybody from 29 to essentially 1, but obviously nobody's 1 year old listening to this, so teenagers or whatever. And I really can't imagine teenagers listening to our show, so it's probably mostly people in their 20s. I guess you never know. Is anybody a teenager here listening to this? Because I think most teenagers are probably on TikTok, which. Remember when I said to you, maybe we should bring the podcast to TikTok? Remember when you said you would have nothing ever to do with TikTok, and then you created an Xbox 2 TikTok account?
I did create an Xbox 2 TikTok account. Because why did I do that? I just wanted to test it out. I wanted to see it because I made a meme, and I wanted to see if the meme would get any traffic, and it actually did. It got some likes. Got like 100 likes.
More memes. Maybe we should just stream the show on TikTok. They allow streaming now, bro. Could be a whole new audience for your memes and stuff. You never know. Right?
My cousin's just turned 19, and she's listened to the show a couple of times, and her feedback was, "I have no idea what you're talking about."
Well, yeah, because you have to know gaming and Xbox to know. So yeah, that does make a lot of sense.
She plays games, but like she doesn't.
No idea what you guys are talking about. Yeah, fair enough. And then the one that won with 724 votes. Was 30s. 39% was the overwhelming winner, which I don't think is that much of a surprise because I think most people are in their 30s when it comes to gaming. In fact, I think that's what even the Take-Two CEO said, why the gaming is going to grow for another 20 years because most people are in their like late 30s or most like gamers, like core gamers are that age and stuff. So interesting poll. Interesting poll indeed. I wanted to.
We got Flames message just popped up.
Okay, what was it?
It said, "Birthday boy Jez Chan, did Jim Ryan give the CMA fresh water? The bribery seems to be working. Happy birthday, Uwu."
Happy birthday, Uwu.
Man, we'll get into the CMA stuff in depth in a bit. It's a channel topic this week, so we are definitely gonna duke it out with Mr. Lion Flying Catfishing
Saving Private
Monkey
Ryan.
Jim Ryan.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Space Channel 5 says, glad scoring can exist, but it's not for me. I'm sorry, Lethal. I'm sorry for calling 50-year-olds geezers. I apologize, Lethal. You know, it's just a joke.
You threw Lethal under the
know.
bus.
I threw the boss mod Lethal under the bus. I'm sorry, bro. I'm sorry. It's all just jokes and fun, bro. I'm sorry. I wonder when Nick is gonna listen to this podcast, because I already see he's been like added on the Xbox Era Discord. Whenever he probably wakes up, he's probably not even up yet in Australia. Oh, our good friend Kay Asante. Aren't you appearing on his show this weekend, Jez?
Yes,
Are you doing the podcast world tour? You're doing Defining Duke, Xbox 2, and then you're doing the Gaming Circle. I believe it's called the Gaming Circle with Kay Asante and that conspiracy theorist nut job Everborn Saga.
Yes. I might also be doing Xbox Era this week.
You're going to be doing Xbox Era too? Oh man.
Maybe, if I'm awake.
If you're awake, okay.
That's what that depends on. But if not Xbox Era this week, I'll go for next week. But
so we're
doing a podcast world tour this week.
It seems like it. I'm not though, but good for you. Kay Asante says, salute to the dynamic duo. No Windows Phone slander, please, Rand. One word review of Scorn. Moist. Jez, be ready for top tier conspiracy theories tomorrow. Yeah.
Brilliant.
That's what Everborn shows up, and he delivers those conspiracy theories. I'm sure he's going to have a lot with the UK one. Lucius Augustus says the UK's Competition Appeal Tribunal called the CMA's decision in August anecdotal evidence, and the CMA had not met its burden of proof on a past case.
Yep. The CMA is a joke. It is a joke, and it's they've pretty much. I've been researching the CMA. A lot of their rulings do get overturned, or their advisoriness gets ignored, and they have been taken to court before because of just complete ignorance many times by different retailers in the UK for various things. The only good thing they did was recommend that they block the Nvidia deal for ARM, which would have been ridiculous if they let that happen. But at the same time, they kind of screwed ARM. Oh, I'm sorry. I always call them ARM because they spell it with capital letters, but they kind of screwed ARM because ARM is barely profitable. And the only chance that business had to get profitable was to sell itself. And the government's decided that they can't sell themselves because they're too critical to UK national security or something like that. So they are screwed. Thanks to the CMA. So, I suppose it's swings and roundabouts with these guys. They threw a massive wrench into their bucket.
Yeah, everybody's just throwing massive wrench in buckets. Okay, so thank you guys for all the support and super chats. Greatly appreciated.
That's all for my birthday, right?
Is it all for your birthday?
Yeah, the super chats for my birthday, right?
I mean, I think you got a couple. Right. I mean, I could give you the $10 or whatever it is. Yeah.
Oh wow, thanks.
Hey, Special Nick is here.
Generous.
Special Nick is here. He says, when somebody think of Sony's market position, somebody is thinking of Sony's market position, Nick. That's the CMA. That's like Jim Ryan's extended family. They're the ones thinking about dear old. Somebody's got to think about PlayStation, and they're the ones doing it. Yeah. So as I was saying, Randall Weeb here. Apparently, we kind of got a little off topic going on. Professional podcast, just doing what we do. I finished Vinland Saga on Netflix, and I loved it, even though it took me a little bit of time to finish it because something.
Did you watch it in English?
No, I watch anime. I watch anime in regular, whatever language it is recorded in.
Japanese.
It's Japanese. So I didn't watch it. Well, hold on. I'm not. Look,
remember what country anime comes from. What?
Whatever. I'm not like well versed into this whole thing as everybody else is. So like, I know there's a whole like debate about sub versus dubbed or whatever, right?
Not really.
Well, some people watch dubbed.
Nobody serious watches dub.
Sure,
right,
but
I've
seen dub footage and it just sounds awful. So I was like, no, I mean I'm perfectly fine with subtitles. So I watch it subbed. But I think I made a bet with my buddy Magic, and he was like, if you watch Cyberpunk Edge Runners next, I'll watch Arcane because I really liked Arcane. But for Cyberpunk Edge Runners, I'm gonna actually watch that in English.
What?
Because
Why?
they have an actual really all-star voice cast list for it. Like you got like, and I sort of almost think like that's. I'm not saying that's the way Cyberpunk Edge Runners should be watched, but I almost feel like it's probably almost as good. So I think I'm going to watch that one in English.
Yeah, it at least makes sense because it's set in America, I guess.
But no, I watched Vinland Saga, and I was almost finished with it, and then I started my diet. So this is the part where I talk about my diet, and I know, whatever. Maybe people don't want to hear about this, but I've lost like 37 pounds, 36 pounds so far, Jez. I've been on the diet for 2 months.
That's epic, man. Congrats.
Doing pretty good, feeling a lot better. The one like challenge I had is I tend to watch things late, like Netflix, Prime Video. I usually watch that late at night. And for the longest time, whenever I watch something, I don't know if anybody's like me, I would order something to eat or eat something. Like I couldn't watch a movie or a show without having food. So for the longest time, I'd be like, all right, I'm going to watch, the new season of Midnight Mass or whatever was on, Cobra Kai, right?
Good show.
I would basically order something off of DoorDash, and so like every time I'd watch something, I'd be eating, right? So I found it for a little bit incredibly difficult to like, all right, I'm going to sit down and watch Rings of Power, or I'm going to sit down and watch House of Dragons, because throughout the whole day, I would not be craving food. Like I was sticking to my thing of eating every 2 hours. Like, okay, here's breakfast. Here's a little granola bar for a snack and energy a couple hours later, and then okay, a couple hard-boiled eggs a couple hours after that, and then like, all right, I'm gonna have some lunch after that, and then like another snack. Like I was sticking pretty easily to the 2 hour thing, and feeling good. Like I wasn't really feeling hungry, right? But as soon as I would sit down and turn on Netflix and start watching something, I immediately started craving food. Like immediately, even if I just started eating, to the point where like I started browsing on my phone and looking at DoorDash again and like Uber Eats. And I'm like, oh, this is a problem. Like I immediately just was like, I was just like, I can't watch this without eating food. So yeah. I kind of like over the course of the month, I would like watch a couple episodes, but then like stop when I started to really feel the crave. But I've gotten to the point now where like I can actually like watch something without feeling the food craving. So I'm good to watch stuff again. But it took like a month to really, to get to that point. Oh man, we have a badass in chat. Hold on. We gotta read this. NG the atheist says, "You fat fuck, spend money on games, not MC McDonald's." Oh man.
Was that super chat?
No, this is a regular comment. I want to call this piece of shit out. I probably spend more money on games than you have, buddy. Not only am I subscribed to Game Pass for 3 years, I also buy a lot of my games on Xbox and on PlayStation, and I have for years. So I may be a fat fuck, and nobody else has put me in position besides me, but you know what? You can go fuck yourself. So, anyways.
I just assume people like that are just really unhappy.
Well, I don't understand. The dude's subscribed to the channel because I have the 10-minute subscriber thing on, right? So he's literally subscribed to me, probably watches the content, is listening to the podcast live, and then says that. Like, okay, like if this is the whole thing. Like there are people like who hate other people or don't like other people, especially in this community, who will like be blocked by them and then take their tweet and try to clown them. It's like, yo, if you don't like somebody, why are you concerned with what they're doing? Like, if I don't like anybody, I'm not concerned at all with what they're doing, period. I don't care. They don't enter into my mind. they're irrelevant, right? So it's like if there's a PlayStation guy or an Xbox guy that I don't like, I'm not watching his shit because I couldn't give a flying fuck about him. But there's plenty of people,
man. It's unhappiness. It's like they have to clown on other people to make up for inadequacies in their own life. Like I never think about anyone like that because I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah,
but people who aren't doing pretty good, they have to bring others down because they're just unhappy people.
Yeah, it's just Noma says hate following and hate watching is so dumb. Makes no sense. I 100% agree with you, but yet people do it. I don't understand. But anyways, enough of that tangent. So I finished Finland Saga. I really loved it. Now I'm getting all these recommendations for animes. I'm gonna watch Cyberpunk Edge Runners, and then after that, I don't know where it's gonna take me. I don't know. People are saying Attack on Titan. People are saying Death Note. People are saying like Naruto or One Piece.
No.
People are saying
these are all horrible. No. Whoever's recommending these, do not listen to them.
Don't listen to those. Okay.
What you should be watching is Lucky Star.
What the hell's Lucky Star?
Lucky Star, Spy X Family, K-On!, Hidamari Sketch. Watch those animes.
I've never even heard of those. I've at least heard of Death Note and Attack on Titan.
Nah. Those are the best animes to watch. The kawaii ones. No?
What are kawaii?
Never mind. Let's not go down this rabbit hole. It'd be too much to explain. But you're on an interesting journey. You're on an interesting journey to.
Well, I got my books to read. I'm even thinking about buying the Vinland Saga manga.
Nah, I tell you what manga you should read before anything. Berserk. Read Berserk. All right.
Read Berserk.
That's a legitimate recommendation. Berserk is like so influential on so many games. Dark Souls, Elden Ring, like even stuff like Silent Hill. Like Berserk is crazy influential. You should definitely read Berserk.
Yes.
Definitely. It's probably never going to be.
We should start the anime Tupac.
So
how much of this podcast is really just about our weekly lives and stuff? I don't know. Like we got so many people. Like how many people are watching this right now? We have over 1,000 people watching, literally listening to anime, and we haven't really talked about any of the topics, and we're almost an hour into this. We appreciate each and one of you. We got 338 likes.
You guys are awesome.
There's 1,000 people watching, but only 330 likes. Come on, guys. We can do better than that. We can get that up to at least 400 right now, right? Come on. Let's get some more people in here too. So there's a lot here. So I'm gonna ask you this again because you talked a little about it next week. Shout out to Double Barrel Gaming, the one and only Boomstick in the chat. He says his anime pick is the Guyver Bio Booster Armor, and I want to say, Boom, my condolences to you, brother. I know that your mother passed away, and that if you need anything, bro, just message me. I know that it's a tough time, but thank you for being here, Boom, and I hope everything gets better. And so before we talk, Jez talks about Scorn, because I've been playing the game all week. I played Grounded, more of Grounded. I'm almost at 50 hours. Me and Colt have almost beat it. We're at the very end, and I still really like the game a lot. The other game I've been playing that I can't talk about, I've beaten that. Can't wait to talk about it next week. So I can't really talk about anything, but Jez can talk about Scorn. So talk about Scorn. Talk about Scorn, Jez. Tell me what you think. Definitely.
Are we getting into the topics now?
Well, yeah, you can talk about Scorn, as much as you want.
Oh my god. Okay. So Scorn, very mixed reactions, and I'm only about 2 hours in, so I haven't this isn't like a completionist review. Mars Dompier reviewed it for us. I read his review. It's very good. Mars, rocking that reviewman's pen very well these days. I agree generally with what Miles has said about it so far. I haven't got far enough to know if I fully agree with everything he says, but Scorn is quite a different game. It's not survival horror. For those who were hoping or expecting it to be survival horror, it's very much not. It's more like an interactive art installation. I suppose one of the games that it reminds me most of maybe is Layers of Fear, maybe. But it's even that's not a really fair comparison, because I'll tell you, this game is beautiful. It is absolutely stunning. Like they wear their inspiration on their sleeve. H.R. Geiger, I can't pronounce his name. The other artist, Beksinski, I think his name is. Both very, very famous artists. Obviously, H.R. Geiger did the aesthetic for Alien, and you often see Beksinski was a heavy. I probably pronounced his name wrong, and I apologize again. But he was a heavy inspiration for the medium, very clearly. But I would argue that Scorn honored his work way better than the medium did. It has some of the best lighting and ambient occlusion I've ever seen in a game, period. It's absolutely stunning. The art is insane and ridiculous. The monster designs are crazy, crazy good. And considering they're like, supposedly like an indie studio, they've really punched above their weight, I think. Like they've really, really, really have. It's the puzzles are also quite good. They're a bit sporadic. They're not particularly insane or complicated. I wouldn't say it's like Myst level, but it's sort of they gave me some hard time. Some of math, I've been kind of like, oh my god, how do I do this? So like, the puzzles are challenging. It's a puzzle game and it's cool. It's a puzzle game, and in that sense, I'd put the difficulty somewhere around the similar sort of level as Inside, maybe, as in Inside's puzzling sort of stuff. So I just really like it so far. But I'm sort of accepting it for what it is, and I had very low expectations of it. So if you're someone who had high expectations of it, you might find yourself a little bit disappointed. But I had low expectations of it, and then I found myself pleasantly surprised. So maybe that's why I'm enjoying it a little bit more than some other people. I'm not sure about that, but I'm sort of playing it like as if it's an interactive art installation. I'm not really playing it like it's I'm expecting it to be super combat heavy or super difficult or anything like that. I'm just thinking of it like this is a nice little journey through a nightmarish landscape or a 3D art gallery kind of thing, because that's how it plays. Like every corner has something interesting to look at. Some of the scenes and stuff I've seen in this game, the game has shown me, and I've just been consistently impressed with what they've done with it so far, I have to say. So that's sort of where I am with Scorn right now. Maybe my opinion will change as I get through it. Like maybe it'll start getting repetitive, or I'll stop seeing new stuff and they'll start reusing assets, and I think, oh, they're just padding it out now. I don't know. But so far, I'm having a great time with it, I have to say. But yeah, and it's on Game Pass, so you've got nothing to lose, really.
Now, you said if because when I was talking to you about this before the show went live, when you joined late, you were said, I should play this because I liked Hellblade, and this game's just like Hellblade. Therefore, I should play Scorn. And I said, there's no way this game's like Hellblade. And you said, absolutely, it's 100% about it's like Hellblade.
Is this Rand misinterpreting my trolling?
No, you're definitely not trolling, because...
I was totally trolling.
No, you weren't. Stop it.
Because I would say it's similar to Hellblade in how I would play Hellblade. Like, I'm there for the experience. I'm not there to be challenged. I'm not there to, have my mind, necessarily blown. I'm just there to enjoy the experience of something new and unique. And I suppose that's the closest way I could compare it to Hellblade. And that Hellblade comparison was specific for you, really. Because I know you love Hellblade.
I do.
But you don't love the puzzles in Hellblade, though, I would presume.
The puzzles could have been better. Yeah, they're not...
No one likes Hellblade's puzzles.
Yes.
But this is it has good puzzles, so...
Really? Then why is it so... Why did Xbox Era give it a 40? Why did VGC give it a 2 out of 5? Why are there such I think one outlet gave it a 1 out of 5.
I'm someone, right, who unironically goes to art galleries, right? Okay. I'm like that. I go to art galleries.
So you like to smell your own farts? You like to smell your own farts as well?
No,
definitely don't. Wait, so late at night, do you and your girlfriend engage in Dutch ovens and shit?
I don't even want to know what that is.
You don't even know what a Dutch oven is?
What is a Dutch oven?
That's a Dutch oven is when you're in your bed with your significant other and you just let one rip, and then you pull the covers over their head and don't let them come out, so all they can breathe in is your noxious fumes. You never heard that before?
Bro, that is
Am I the only one who's heard of a Dutch oven? I mean, Jez literally said, I unironically go to art museums which to me is
Yeah,
just like, yes, my farts smelled amazing today.
no. That is not a brag. That, if anything, that's self-depreciating. That's self-deprecating. I do not think it's amazing and special to go in an art gallery, but it's something I enjoy. I like art. I like looking at pictures of art. I have a load of art books. The truth is, I like it because you don't have to read nothing, right? You read the description of the art. You don't have to read anything else. It's like a picture book for adults, right? Basically. But that's how I'm taking it, because every scene is like, oh my god, this is breathtaking. Oh my god, this is breathtaking. That's kind of how I'm playing it right now, and for that purpose, I'm really enjoying it. Is it the most amazing video game in the universe? Probably not. But for what it is, I am really impressed with it. And I think if you go in with the right mindset, that you're there to look at it, people review it by saying it's moist and gross.
Moist.
It is. That is the point of the game. It's there to be looked at, more than anything, I would say. So it's a pretty game, and I'm enjoying it purely based on the visuals so far. I would love to see this world become a survival horror or something more interactive. But as a sort of linear exploration game, it's really impressive, and I think this studio is special. I'm far more impressed with what they've done with Scorn than what Bloober did with Medium, for example. If we're putting them in the same category as of like, inspired by classic Gothic artists or whatever, I think Scorn is up there above the Medium. But yeah, it's not the most interactive game in the universe, and if you don't find looking around that interesting, you're probably not going to enjoy it, and I think that's completely fair. But I'm glad the game exists, and maybe it only exists because of Game Pass. I don't know, but it was at the top of Steam's bestseller list based on curiosity alone, really, because they haven't really lied about what it is. Then they've always said it's not a survival horror game. They've always said it's not a shooter; it's a puzzle game. So based on that, I think it's done pretty well, and I think the studio is going to be something special. Their first game, I believe. So I'm happy for them.
I just want one of those like trailers where they give like the critical acclaim to a game, and it'd be like Scorn, a pop up Windows Central, Jez Corden dash moist, and it just says moist.
Moist. Yeah, I mean, I saw Xbox do that earlier, so I can't take credit for it really. But it's really cool, and some people are saying the Medium has a story though, but so does Scorn. Scorn has a story in the sense that Limbo and Inside have a story. It's sort of told through its environment. There's weird shit going on in the background, and there is definitely a narrative there to be sort of explored. But yeah, you kind of have to solve it yourself. It's kind of like it doesn't give you a whole lot to go on besides the design. Like for example, I don't want to spoil it necessarily, but if you're watching the gameplay footage, you'll see it anyway. But I won't spoil it per se. But the first section of the game, you're kind of almost in a factory, and like if you look around that factory, there's all kinds of weird shit that sort of hint at what the factory is and what it's for. And then at the end of that section, something happens, and then it's sort of like you can't. If you took it at face value, it'd be like, what the hell? This is just totally random, and what happened is just totally random for the sake of being disgusting. But if you actually look around the environment, there's hints about what happened, the reason it happened. It's super hard to explain without creating spoilers, because it is like told through a very sort of environmental lens, and I appreciate games that take the time to do that. Like Elden Ring has elements of that too. Elden Ring's a lot more explicit with its story, of course, because it has like text descriptions and it has NPCs explaining stuff sometimes. But Elden Ring has like some environmental stuff too. Like, I remember when like you do the first castle area, and there's like that part of the castle where you can go like all the way around the back and then down, and then there's like this weird face thing in the wall and floor, like a fossil, and it's like, what the hell is that? And because From Software, that face thing means something. and lo and behold, if you dive down the rabbit hole and watch Vati Vidya's lore videos, you find out that all kinds of weird shit that sort of does make sense when you actually take it all together as a sort of, if you play detective a little bit. Some people don't like that, and that's fine. And I think that's part of the reason why it's so divisive. But I like that, so I appreciate it for what it is.
Are you gonna finish it?
Yeah, I am gonna finish it because it's a shorter game.
Maybe I'll check it out because I did finish the game I'm playing.
You should check it out, man.
I do want to get into the Forza Horizon 5. They did that 10-year anniversary update. So I wanted to check that out because I do love me some Forza Horizon. I'm still waiting for like Gotham Knights to come out. Persona 5 Royale is coming out. It's kind of a big month for Game Pass. A lot of big titles coming. So yeah, I think I'll check it out. Space Channel 5 says, I just can't with this art style. Glad it exists, but it's not for me.
Yeah, it's totally fine. Like the audio too is really good. Someone asked about the audio. Like it's super subtle, and there's no like jump scares or anything like that I've seen. But it's still incredibly creepy. Like it's just really good. I just love the aesthetic. I just love the art. I like H.R. Geiger. I like Beksinski. I like Scorn.
Bro, why are you defending this though, bro?
Yeah. Why am I not allowed to have an opinion? I just, I hate people like that.
Why are you damage
defending?
Control,
I don't know.
Replicant says there's a rumor going around on social that Gotham Knights is 30 frames on Twitter for the next gen consoles.
I did see that. There's no 60 frames version.
That would be incredibly disappointing if true.
Yeah, I wasn't interested in that game anyway, but now I'm even less interested. As someone who's completely over film at gaming
there's been some talk that like Plague Tale Requiem is 30 frames from people that have played it, which I don't know if it is, but it's also next gen only, and here's Gotham Knights that is also next gen only. Man, I would like. My excitement level for Gotham Knights was already kind of lukewarm based on like what I've seen of the game, and I was just like, but now if you're telling me like I gotta play at 30 frames, like it's kind of like for that type of game, it's like, oh man, I don't know, man, what are we doing here? Why are we regressing back to 30 frames? Why? We'll wait for official confirmation, but that is a rumor. Whitty in the super chat says, isn't it great that a console brings out As Dust Falls, Grounded, Scorn, and Pentiment in a year? Yeah, I mean, well, you see, Scorn's not really an Xbox. It's not like Xbox had anything to do with Scorn, but the other ones for sure. As Dust Falls, Global Publishing, Grounded, first party title, Pentiment, another first party title. Definitely a lot of variety there, and people would be looking back at 2022 if Starfield and Redfall come out as a fantastic year. You have the two big AAA releases surrounded by some quality AA releases, AA titles, and people are like, damn, that was a pretty good year. But because the AAA titles moved, and all you're left with are kind of the AA experiences, which are good. As Dust Falls was quite good. Grounded, I think, is really damn good. I'm assuming Pentiment's actually going to be pretty good. But
Pentiment's going to be good.
Those games don't hit on the same level as the bigger games. But yeah, Scorn, like I don't really consider Scorn, and even though it's only on Xbox right now and PC, I don't consider it like really an Xbox game like I would As Dust Falls, because it's not like Microsoft published it or funded it or whatever, So there's it's kind of like how PlayStation with Sifu and Stray, right? Like they didn't publish those games; they just kind of have the deals for them in place. But yeah, so I've been checking out Scorn. I figured I gotta kind of come back on, kind of circle back around and ask you about Halo again, since you put out that article and then last week you kind of talked a little bit about it. Another week has passed. I think you even said you wanted to say something. Oh, maybe I'm misremembering, but is there any more movement on the whole Halo Infinite Unreal saga that's been going on?
I got a theory about it now.
Okay.
I got a theory. I think Sean W put out a video, like for those who don't know, Sean W put out a video saying 343 was going to switch to Unreal Engine, and he got sources on it. I looked into it, and some of my sources said the same, that 343 was going to move to Unreal Engine. Now, but I couldn't get any physical proof. And you know me, I like my documents, I like my physical proof. If there's, I like to have physical evidence, right? The physical evidence didn't match the comments I was getting. The comments, the physical evidence seems to suggest the game's still in slipspace because the game is still being developed for slipspace. There are still builds hitting Microsoft servers that are in slipspace with Tatanka's stuff attached to it, right? So now it's kind of like reading tea leaves at this point because you don't know if it's like these are just parts of Tatanka obviously being the Battle Royale. Don't know if just parts of Tatanka's being made in Unreal or just parts of Tatanka's being made in Slipspace. So it's kind of like reading tea leaves without having a document or a very high authoritative source that is trustworthy to know for sure what the plan is here. So my theory now is that there are some people in 343 that want this to happen. They want to move to Unreal. And I think that want and the discussions internally about it are potentially being misconstrued as leaks, as real, as evidence. That's kind of my assumption right now, that there is internal discussions about Unreal, but it's not definitive. But some people believe it to be definitive because they are trying to will it to happen. That's kind of where I'm at with it right now. So if that's true or not, I have no idea at this point. I kind of regret putting the article out now because the sources that I got to back that up were not the strongest sources I've ever used. But it kind of feels like there is smoke here. There's something going on, basically, is what I'm saying. But I think the thing that's going on are internal discussions. They're nothing definitive, nothing provable that is definitely means they're moving to Unreal Engine yet.
Okay.
But that's where I'm at right now. It's a big, I don't know. But
Okay.
I would presume right now to just wait and find out. That's where I'm at with it, basically.
All right. Thank you for that. Can't wait to get Sloth as usual. As Sloth, we'll take that up. So yeah. I don't know if you saw this because it kind of hit while we were doing the show, Jez. So breaking news, so to speak. About 40 minutes ago, Blizzard announced that Overwatch 2 has attracted 25 million players during its first 10 days after the early access free-to-play launch. And it set a new Overwatch record for peak daily players, nearly 3 times the original. So there you go. Apparently they put out some investor Activision thing about how well Overwatch 2 has been doing despite the bad launch. So
yes, I kind of did hear this, that it was doing extremely well. I heard from sources at Blizzard and stuff that there was sort of like a sense of we need to put these numbers out because to prove that the game isn't dead, basically. And demonstrably the game's doing well because the servers were overwhelmed to the point that Battle.net itself couldn't handle the login queue. So it's really good to see that there's still interest in Overwatch, but at the same time, man, can we just get one AAA studio releasing a finished game in 2022? It feels just like Battlefield 2042, feels like Halo Infinite, it feels like all these games that sort of are backed by billion-dollar corporations and just release in this sort of half-baked state. One of the annoying things about Overwatch 2 as well is that they used to call this early access. They were calling it early access before, and then they removed that from the branding. So I think there were people at Blizzard who were like, yeah, this ain't ready. We need to call it early access or a beta or something. But then Kotick or whatever was like, nah, early access is not good marketing. People won't show up because they expect it to be buggy and broken. So they shipped it like it is, and it is a mess. Like, I've been playing it through the podcast as usual, and I'm lagging on every other match. There's like massive lag spikes, players flying all over the place. There's a bunch of heroes that are banned right now because they're broken in competitive, or at least they were. I don't know if they've been fixed already, but to be fair, they've been doing a good job of patching it relatively quickly, but it's still irritating that we constantly getting this from AAA studios where they're just shipping games half finished and then fix it up later. And I suppose it's our fault, because as I say, I'm still playing it and people are still
you're loving it. I mean,
I'm still loving it.
I knew people would still line up to play it. I'm not surprised it's doing pretty well. I mean, this is going to be the game that Jez plays every single podcast for the next 52 weeks. Essentially, until something else comes out, right? It's just a matter of, is the launch or how it's, all the problems, is that going to push people away? That's something they probably got to be concerned about. I'm not interested in the Overwatch multiplayer. I'm interested in the PvE. That's what I care about in Overwatch 2, but that's not coming until sometime next year. So that is when I will come back to Overwatch. Because I think I played like 60 hours of Overwatch 1, but like now my buddies are all like about competitive, right? Everything's competitive, and sort of that way in Halo, and I'm just not as good as them. Like the magic is just god tier at shooters go anyways, and it's just like you play with him, you get ranked with better people, then you get killed, and it's just not fun. And they're all doing that stuff, which is great for them. They were all playing Overwatch this week, and I was playing something else, so. It is what it is. I'm waiting.
You should play Overwatch casually with me.
Nah,
I don't play ranked. I just can't be bothered to get sweaty. Because you have to actually like try in ranked. I just want to mess around and.
I'm just not interested in Overwatch multiplayer. I'll play the PvE. One of my focus is on that Warzone 2, baby. That's what I care about. That's what I'm looking forward to. Give me that Battle Royale, Jez. Now, I may be a problem in the industry because all I care about is Battle Royales. I pretty much won't play anything else now, so.
I can't, I'm the opposite. I can't stand Battle Royale.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. I just can't get into them. I just hate this sense of like, you die and that's it. You don't get a second chance because I play quite recklessly in all shooters that I play. Like I'm like, in Battlefield, I use an LMG and go straight to the front line and kill a couple of people and get killed because I'm just don't play carefully. So it's like antithetical to the way I tend to play shooters, which is like maybe habits I picked up from Unreal Tournament back in the day, Yeah. Because I don't know. Well, but in Overwatch, like, I can do that. I can play as a tank, which is like, that's what they're meant to do. They're meant to be reckless and run in first and all that kind of stuff to some degree.
Yeah, all right. We have a super chat here for Spanner in the Works. It says, do you think we'll ever see another Manhunt game? Spanner in the Works. I'm going to say no. I don't think we'll ever see another Manhunt game. That's a Rockstar game, is it not? Manhunt?
Yeah. Run on. It was the first game actually, no, it wasn't the first game. I think Thrill Kill was the first game that I experienced being banned. But Manhunt got banned when I was a teenager in the UK, which is rare. It's rare for a game to get banned in the UK. But for whatever reason, the media had it out for Manhunt. I think some kid had hit their friend with a hammer or something, and then he blamed Manhunt for it. So, lo and behold, the media started a campaign to get Manhunt banned, and it was banned.
Yeah.
And I have a physical copy of that, so maybe that's worth money now.
Did the sequel come out on the Switch, or am I thinking, or the Wii, or am I thinking of something else? Or was that another?
Yeah, I think it did,
I think it might have.
I got a sort of weird, vague memory there.
Yeah, I have a weird, vague memory of some of like Manhunt 2 coming out on the Switch. I'm sure chat will tell me if I'm wrong. But I played Manhunt, I believe, on the PS2, I want to say. I think it was the PS2. Maybe it was Xbox, but I don't see Rockstar doing Manhunt ever again. Smack the Panda says, Overwatch 2 isn't a new game or a sequel at the moment. It's just a relaunch of Overwatch 1. Well, you ain't wrong. So it is kind of just an update that people are, I don't know. It's kind of weird that they just didn't make Overwatch 1 free to play and add all the stuff to it. Like, they essentially killed Overwatch 1 without putting anything new on it because they were making Overwatch 2 only to turn Overwatch 1 into Overwatch 2 and make it free to play. I don't know. I don't know anything behind it. Let's see if anybody in chat says about Manhunt, if I was wrong, if it was.
The reason they did what they did with Overwatch is because of Bobby Kotick is obsessed with having something to sell at retail. So, like, slap a number 2 on it, and you can stick it at retail. That is like Bobby Kotick's whole business model, and that's why like they're doing a Warzone 2, and that's why they're doing all they do Call of Duty every year. It's because he loves his retail fix. He wants to have his he wants to have his cake and eat it. And I suppose Overwatch 2 is an attempt to have his cake and eat it. Because
even though it's free to play,
even though it's free to play, there'll be some kind of retail bundle of Overwatch 2 guaranteed for Christmas, because that's what you buy for your kids and stuff, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess so. I mean, it seems like it's working, though. I mean, it's Overwatch 2, at least in the beginning, seems more popular than Overwatch 1 is, so maybe it's working. We got a super chat here from Achievement. He says, Jez, you're old now. That means you got to like Halo. Got him. You're old, Jez. Now you got to like Halo.
Oh, man. I used to like Halo. I actually kind of like Halo Infinite. I
Really?
like the way it plays.
Uh-huh.
I'm just really bad at it. That's the truth is, I'm just really bad at it. I don't know what it is. Like, I'm too old now to aim well or something.
I mean, it plays extremely well. It plays extremely well.
It does play well,
It's just lacking content.
When I play Halo Infinite, I just think like, I could be playing a game I'm at least proficient.
I could be playing Overwatch 2.
Yeah, I could be playing Overwatch, or back in the day,
could be raiding in World of Warcraft.
Yeah,
could
I haven't
be raiding
played Warcraft for ages.
Space Channel 5, she says, us all over 40s can't play modern shooters. I was last good in Unreal Tournament rocket launchering. Yeah, that's true. Soul Reaper says, with Dark Tide seeming close, I can't seem to get hyped for this game knowing it's a Left 4 Dead clone. I feel the only game to get close to that perfect formula was World War Z, and all the others just have disappointed entirely. I understand your concern, but I've actually, and usually when you see the footage of those Warhammer games, they do kind of look like Left 4 Dead clones, and I'm doing the whole quotes, kind of like Back 4 Blood was. But I don't know, there's something cool about Warhammer Vermintide and Vermintide 2. Like, I really liked Vermintide 2. I had a blast playing that in co-op. Maybe it's the setting, with all the different rats. Maybe it's because it's mostly melee based, where Left 4 Dead is guns and zombies, and with Dark Tide seemingly being like a combination of melees and guns, and outer space with hordes of stuff. Even though you could say it's aping the Left 4 Dead formula, I still think it's probably going to be a really good time, just like the other Warhammer games were. So I think it's disappointing that it's coming out on PC with no mention of the Xbox version when it was supposed to launch in September and it got delayed, and now they're not even talking about the Xbox version. I think that's disappointing, because I was actually looking forward to playing it. Spartan Killer in the Super Chat says, Rand, with Sony concerned about exclusive game modes going to Xbox instead of PS5, would that sway the CMA even though exclusive game modes have been PlayStation on 7 COD games? Believe me, brother, we're going to get to that topic about how Sony is incredibly hypocritical for giving those points to the CMA, and how I can't believe the CMA wrote that out. A neutral government agency who's supposed to be investigating this thing literally repeated Sony's talking points, because the irony is so damn thick, I was drowning in it. Sony basically saying Microsoft is going to do all the things that we currently do right now, and you can't let them do it. And you know what? You should be fine with that because we are the market leaders, and it's acceptable for us. But if our competitor tries to do it, we can't have that. You know what, CMA? Block it. That's kind of Sony using some pretty significant anti-competitive practices to make sure that their competitor doesn't get a leg up on them. Bro, the unabashed shame that PlayStation has presenting those arguments. And then not only that, the complete ignorance of the CMA to actually posit it or present it as legitimate concerns.
It's wild, man.
It's
wild. I can't honestly believe it.
Bro, I can't wait to talk about this. But let's talk about new Xbox hardware first. If you guys are enjoying the show, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe if you're new. We're on the way to 90K, and then soon enough 100. Thank you guys for being here. Well, we got shelved again, Jez. Phil Spencer doing another interview or whatever, as Phil Spencer tends to do. He had something on his shelf. And, we had seen, the Kojima doll, the Ludens doll, which led to the whole stuff, Jeff Grubb's rumor about Kojima working with Xbox, which turned out to be true. He had the Xbox Series S on his shelf before for quite some time, before we even knew what it looked like. It was right there. And now you got
hilarious.
some small looking Xbox console looking thing next to a controller, so you can sort of see the scale. It's looks really small, and it was sort of like center focus. It kind of was turned to the camera a little bit, it looked like. And everybody was like, wait a minute, what is that? And everybody's speculating that this is Xbox Keystone, which is something that you confirmed earlier in the year when you talked to Microsoft. So I guess we'll hand it off to you, Jez. Did Phil really just leak the new Xbox Keystone streaming device on his shelf?
Yeah. I mean, the Xbox account themselves replied and said, why are you leaking old prototypes on Twitter again, Phil? And it is the Keystone prototype. What they've said is that they're moving on from Keystone to a version 2. Might not be called Keystone, it might be called something else. Don't know what it's going to be called yet. Maybe it's still going to be called Keystone code worded. I don't know, but my presumption is it's going to have a different code name. But the reason they took Keystone back to the drawing board was because, from what I understand, it didn't have any apps. It was basically just the app, the Xbox Game Pass app. It didn't have YouTube. It didn't have anything else. So their mentality was, if we are going to sell this as a sort of streaming box, it needs to at least have the basic suite that people expect from this kind of device, like Apple TV kind of device, which is, your apps, your YouTube, your Netflix, your Disney Plus, probably Apple TV, since Apple TV just came out for Xbox as well, and Windows, or was it Apple Music, whatever, Spotify and stuff like that. So it's the fact that they teased it means that it's still definitely coming. It means that they want to keep it in the conversation. They want to keep the idea of it out there, while for us to all speculate on, to write our news articles about, and just sort of prepare people for the fact that it's going to exist. From what I understand, the prototype that Phil had on his shelf was fully operational. It fully worked. It was about the size of the top inch of an Xbox Series X, sort of cut off, shaved off, and painted white, with an Ethernet port, USB port, and all that kind of stuff. So that's the Keystone, and maybe one day someone somewhere will get their hands on one and do a hands-on with it, because from what I understand, it was pretty much working, ready to go.
So let me ask you this: they said they took it back to the drawing board to add more things to it potentially. The fact that Phil has it out there teasing, does that kind of give you the impression that we're going to hear more about this or see this Keystone product sooner rather than later? Because I was thinking we wouldn't see anything about it until 2024. The way it was we're kind of doing more things with this. But the fact that it's already out there in 2022 on the shelf, getting people talking about it because Phil knows what he's doing, I don't know. That sort of feels to me, is that something you really want to tease for 2 years before it really comes out, presumably at a price point of $99 with the controller? I mean, who knows what the Series S will even be at that point. Series S could be $199. I mean, what do you think?
I'm not sure. I think it's probably closer than we would think, maybe. I don't think it's probably not as far away as you'd think because of the teasing. But it's also pretty hard to say. They're going all in on growing Game Pass Cloud in the near future. They've sort of they're preparing TV apps for older TVs as well. So right now we only have 2022 Samsung smart TVs that have it, but I've heard they're preparing it for 2021 Samsung TVs as well, and also they're in talks with LG and maybe even Sony to bring it to their TVs. It just requires a bit of work on LG and other manufacturers' side before they can do it. because it has to use some local compute on a TV to do the video encoding, right? So does that to be considered? And they've also said in their filings that they are, preparing to double the capacity of xCloud. So they clearly believe in this tech. And I think when we get not Overwatch, when we get Diablo 4 into xCloud, that's going to blow up, because Diablo 4 is perfect for cloud. It's going to work really well for cloud, and I think that's going to be the real sort of game changer if they manage to buy Activision Blizzard. But I think if they don't manage to buy Activision Blizzard, they'll just cut some kind of deal for Game Pass, because that they're not just going to let that money sit. They're not just going to let it lie. They'll be like, okay, well, if we can't buy Activision Blizzard, boom, we're gonna take away the COD deal. We're gonna do some kind of massive deal with Activision to get all their games in Game Pass and do all this other stuff. And yeah, that's how it'll end up going. If if by some miracle Sony does manage to convince the ignorant regulators of the world that the deal should be blocked, we'll just get these kind of pervasive Game Pass deals, because the plan has to be for Diablo 4 to launch into Game Pass and xCloud and be marketed as a way to play it on your phone, because it's going to be an alternative to Diablo Immortal. Diablo Immortal is this horrible pay-to-win nightmare that it doesn't gel well with the Western markets, So they'll want to offer that as an alternative, and that'll be massive on mobile. It will. And yeah, that's my thought process on that.
Yeah, it's just more of Microsoft investing in the cloud, which is interesting, because like the CMA is all like, we have concerns about Game Pass and subscription services in the cloud, and how this deal could potentially, force out other competitors or prevent other competitors from joining. But I always just kind of remember, wasn't Sony the first one to these subscriptions in cloud gaming? Like, am I mistaking, or didn't they have PlayStation Now in 2013? And like, didn't they sort of stop investing in the cloud because nobody gave a shit about PS Now because it was awful? But now, like, suddenly Microsoft took their time, and Sony went in a different direction with their investments on things, and Microsoft pivoted and was like, we're going to mostly invest in subscription services and streaming, because that's what we see as the future. Suddenly now, like, Microsoft can't pursue that area because Sony's not equipped, because they went a different direction. So they're preventing Microsoft from even trying, when Sony was the first ones who actually, they were the ones who were going to have first mover advantage. They were the first ones with a game subscription service and a cloud streaming service, and it failed. And now Microsoft's like on the hook, and they're like, well, you get Activision, this might screw everybody else up. But it's like, yeah, but they took their time with it. They invested with it that the market is basically non-existent as it is right now. It almost seems like, this is another scenario where like, you're just too big, Microsoft. Like, got to protect little old Sony. What if Sony wants to compete in this area? Well, like, they wanted to, and then they didn't, and they backed away. But now suddenly, like, Microsoft's not able to. I don't know, it's a whole bunch of BS. We'll get into that later. But one of the other things about the Phil Shelf tweet, it was a tweet because it wasn't an actual video, was because it was in celebration of Fallout's 25th anniversary, right? One of the biggest franchises that Microsoft recently acquired from the ZeniMax acquisition. And Obsidian kind of in the news because they sort of said they're not working on anything Fallout related, dashing the dreams of our buddy Mr. Matty Plays. And I honestly feel, Jez, that we are not going to see another Fallout game until 2032.
2032?
Bro, I mean, look at it right here. Like, if nobody else, if only Bethesda Game Studios is working on a Fallout game, right? If Obsidian's not working on anything, or there's no other studios working on it, they got Starfield coming out next year, 2023. We already know they're working on Elder Scrolls 6 as their next game. So you figure minimum 4 years for that game. AAA development, that's 2027, with probably the standard Bethesda GameWorks delay, or Game Studios delay. So you're probably looking at like 2028 for Elder Scrolls 6. And if they're the ones doing Fallout 5, which is kind of what, Todd Howard has said, they got a one-pager, right? and that like you're like 4 years from that, you're at 2031, 2032. Am I wrong for thinking that it'll be about another 10 years before we see another Fallout game, a sequeled, numbered Fallout game? Because I know there's currently Fallout 76, which is one of the most played games on Xbox, constantly in like the top 30 or 40. There's Fallout Shelter. But I think there's a significant chance that we go basically like a decade and a half between Fallout games. Because Fallout 5 was 2015, and there's a good chance that we won't see Fallout 4 was 2015, that we won't see Fallout 5 until 2030.
And you're making me depressed right now.
I mean, unless somebody else is working on a game, unless they say you can, like, not even Fallout 5, like something brand new in the Fallout universe, and somebody else is making it. Can you?
Why you gotta bum me out, bro?
I mean, can you refute this?
Why are you doing? Why are you doing this,
bro?
Why are you putting that energy out
it could
there,
be
bro?
essentially 10 years, bro. I'll be 51. Granted, I'm not that big a fan of Fallout, anyways. I like Elder Scrolls, but I feel for my buddy Matty because he's not getting any younger. So how do you feel about that? Is there some truth to that? Like, do you think Obsidian could just be saying that, and they actually might work on a Fallout New Vegas 2 or Fallout Chicago, which would be cool, or somebody else works on a new Fallout game? Because it could be the Fallout 35th anniversary, and we still wouldn't have a new game. They could be celebrating that in 10 years, or celebrating it in 10 years because there's a new release of a new Fallout game.
Sorry, finish your point.
I was just saying, it kind of seems, as part of this big acquisition, and Fallout's one of the biggest franchises that you acquired with it, it seems like a commercial mistake not to have a new Fallout game somewhat soon. Like 10 years from now seems like way too long to me. What do you think?
Yes. I think if they do nothing, then yeah, 10 years, probably. But they would have to also be insane to do nothing. I don't think it's exactly like you said. You literally acquire one of the biggest franchises in history, Fallout. And it is, up there as one of the most recognized and most celebrated sci-fi RPG franchises in history. And you're telling me you're not going to do anything with it for the next 10 years? I don't think so. I think like the whole point of Creation Engine is that it allows for rapid iteration on massive worlds. Yes, we get a lot of bugs. We get a lot of jank, potentially. But the benefit is you get a game that people are still playing for a decade because it's so varied, it's so complex, and it's so open. There's like nothing really like it. There's no games out there where like every apple is an object and not just a static background, model. It's actually like a 3D object that exists within the game's universe. You can pick it up and manipulate it and all that kind of stuff. And it sounds like a small thing, but like it just makes everything feel so dynamic and so different. And there's just nothing like Skyrim, and there's nothing like Fallout out there. Like I remember the first time I played Fallout 3, and like I hit someone in the head with VATS, and their little eyeball went flying towards me at the camera and splatted on the floor. And then you can pick the eyeball up and like throw it around. I was like, wow, that's disgusting, but it's immersive. And it's a memory I've taken with me to this day. So you're seriously not going to do anything with that franchise for the next 10 years? I don't think so. I think ultimately what they'll do is they'll build a team for Fallout using the Creation Engine, the latest iteration of it, basically the Starfield version of Creation Engine or whatever, and they will go from there. And I was talking to Mr. Matty about this on the Defining Dude podcast, and I was saying I'm going to start advocating for this. Matty, we need to start a movement. We need to start a movement for Microsoft to make a studio dedicated specifically to Fallout 76 and the new Fallout game. That's what needs to happen. It needs to be a branded studio. Mr. Matty says we should call it the Vault, and we should all Fallout creators and YouTubers, we should all call for this, because I ain't waiting 10 years for a Fallout. I ain't, man. I'm not going to put up with that energy, Microsoft. So yeah, that's 10 years. No, but I the whole thing that sparked this discussion was Obsidian saying they didn't want to work on it, right? Or that they didn't have time. I completely respect that. It's not their franchise. They want to work on, the Pillars of Eternity universe, which they developed themselves. They want to work on the Outer Worlds and make that as good as it can be. I completely respect that. And I think, while, New Vegas is very beloved and it is, arguably the best Fallout overall, I think it's completely fair that Obsidian would want to, do their own thing, rather than work on essentially a different team's IP. Even though Obsidian basically made it their own. Not only did they make it their own, a lot of the team at Obsidian worked on the original Fallout anyway. There's a lot of DNA. There's a lot of Fallout DNA in Exile and in Obsidian. It's quite interesting, because these studios have decades worth of developer pedigree in them. And a lot of the developers at Obsidian and in Exile both worked on Fallout in some form over the years. It's really fun when you dig into the history of these studios. So, and it's even with that in mind, you can't just let Fallout just languish, Are we serious? We could end up with Wasteland 4 before we get Fallout 5. I think that's nuts, But
Indeed it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just like how I want Banjo for my Banjo bros. I want a new Fallout for my Fallout bros. And we all might be 10 years older before we get it, which would be a shame. Shout out to John G becoming the newest member of the channel. Appreciate you, man. Enjoy all the emotes and stuff. Humdrung says Xbox can't even get PD Studio right now. Fallout. You mean the Perfect Dark Studio? You mean Crystal Dynamics?
Man, Humdrung's just a hater these days. I mean, how do you know if they've got Perfect Dark right or not? You don't know shit about Perfect Dark, so pipe down.
Space Channel 5, she says, I'm in the minority, but I don't like Fallout. Elder Scrolls, please. I'm very much with you. I really like Elder Scrolls. I'm not the biggest fan of Fallout, but that's not to say I wouldn't play it. I did play 3 a lot. In fact, I have all the achievements in 3, but I didn't play New Vegas and I didn't play Fallout 4. But anyways, Jez, I just wanted to make mention on the show. I got blocked by Take Him. Oh,
hopefully I did too.
Man, I got blocked by him for ratioing him. Oh my god. No
He's a clown.
way. This dude followed me. This is the Sony guy. This was the PlayStation fan, toxic PlayStation fan that worked for Bloomberg. He obviously doesn't work for Bloomberg anymore. He works for somebody else. And he comes up with these most ridiculous arguments. So he's over there cheerleading the CMA, right? Yeah, block the Xbox thing. This is horrible, right? And he jumped on to Tom Warren's tweet and basically was like, you need to do better, Tom. How dare you say these things? And then I responded with, because the whole thing regarding Microsoft not honoring their promise to put Bethesda games on whatever. And it's they never promised that, right? And there are Bethesda games on PlayStation Plus. And then the whole thing was but that's not what they mean. Where's Halo, Gears, and Forza? And then I was but nobody expects Halo, Gears, or Forza on these to be on PlayStation Plus. Because when I turn on my Xbox, Spider-Man, God of War, and Last of Us aren't there. And he blocked me over it.
He's a clown, man. He's he's the example of someone who they become so biased they can't think logically anymore. And it's kind of sad because he's someone who's worked at respectable publishers in the past. God knows who he works for now, but clearly he didn't last at Bloomberg. Well, I don't know what the deal is with that guy. I think he clowns on Microsoft for everything, whether it's Surface or Windows or anything. He tweets about Microsoft all the time. He never tweets about anything else, just Microsoft, whether it's Xbox, whether it's Surface, whether it's Windows, anything Microsoft does. I think Microsoft killed his dog. I think Microsoft, I don't know, Surface fell on his dog's head or something and squished it. because this dude has it in for Microsoft.
He was also the guy that wrote that this is what real next gen stuff looks like when talking about Miles and like before Sony had announced that those games were cross gen, right? The real power of next gen. Yeah. So yeah, the dude blocked me.
Mega toxic.
Woo! But I it was funny because I saw it and I was like, wait a minute, I think I'm blocked by this guy. So I'd see Tom replying to him, but I can't click on his thing. So I'm like, oh my god, he blocked me. Nomad says, I sure did. Didn't Grubb say that New Vegas 2 was in early talks? Yeah, but that's the thing. Early talks can mean a lot of things. It could mean that they're going to go, early meaning like, hey, what you want to do this after these games? And potentially sure, but then they could have decided, you know what, we don't want to. Just because they're in early talks about something doesn't mean that something is absolutely going to happen. Space Channel 5 says, StarCraft Ghost. If they could get a StarCraft shooter out afterwards, ooh, that would be great. That would actually be amazing. There's also a lot of new Starfield info that came out this week. Todd Howard did an interview talking about the dialogue and some of those things and how there's like 250,000 lines of dialogue in the Starfield game. You're still really goddamn hyped for this game, aren't you, Jez? I mean, if I had to ask you what's your most anticipated game, it'd be Starfield, right?
I'm trying not to get too hyped about it because I know if I let my mind run away with myself. Because honestly, this happened to me with Fallout 4. I was so hyped for Fallout 4. And then honestly, I was quite disappointed with it. I still enjoyed it overall, but it was like the voice protagonist I thought detracted from the game. None of the decisions really mattered, which was a total difference from Fallout 3 in New Vegas. A complete reversal from like New Vegas and stuff. And and a downgrade from Skyrim. I think I gave Fallout 4 7 out of 10. I was like I was one of the most harsh reviewers about that game. Because I just, thought it was a weak shooter and not a particularly great RPG, But I still played it a hell of a lot, and I, really loved the base builder mechanics. I thought those were great, and the DLC helped Fallout a lot in terms of depth. And it feels like they tried to address some of the complaints about Fallout in the DLC. But it feels like with Starfield, they're almost going back to basics. It's like they've looked at their history of even all the way back to Morrowind and be like, yeah, let's make this more of a hardcore old school RPG. So I'm extremely excited about what they do with it, and the art style is incredible. Like that sort of gritty space. What do they call it? Space punk or something?
Something like that. Cool. Yeah, something like that. I'm really interested in Starfield as well. So I love me some sci-fi, as everybody knows. So I will definitely be there day one, because sci-fi is better than post-apocalyptic. I'll just say that. Let's see what else we got here. Let's see, another topic. What do we want to go with next? Project Mara, Jez, got trademarked this week. Ninja Theory trademark Project Mara. Are we closer to seeing something from that game? Because recently I've had a bunch of people ask me about that game. Like, is it still being worked on? Like, obviously I don't know the answer to those questions, but I had always heard that the plan was for Hellblade 2 to come out first, and then Project Mara. So now that Project Mara trademark has been filed, are we getting to the point where we might see something, because it's been a bit since we've seen anything from Project Mara, and I'm always super interested in anything from Ninja Theory. So what do you think? You think we could see something from them, or do you think would they hold off until Hellblade 2 comes out? Like, why trademark it now and not, when they revealed it? Well, what is it now? A couple years ago, like when they did. What's your take on this?
I suppose it depends on the scope of the game. Like, is Project Mara something that could launch before Hellblade? I doubt it. But if it was like a smaller kind of game, a smaller kind of exploration horror game experience, or sort of like a demo or something, I don't know. If it was a smaller experience, then conceivably, yeah. But generally, the way Microsoft does marketing is generally they market one studio's game at a time, like that. Generally, there are exceptions to every rule, but they tend to like focus on the next game that's coming out. So I think like they'll keep Project Mara until we've got Hellblade, or Hellblade's been detailed and we've got a launch window and that kind of stuff. And then maybe we'll hear about Project Mara. But man, this is sort of related, but a bit of a tangent. But it feels like horror games are having a renaissance lately, man. Don't you think?
Renaissance.
A renaissance, yeah.
I like that. I like that.
And honestly, it's thanks to Capcom. It's thanks to Resident Evil going back to form, really. Because now you got like Capcom showed the way, and then other studios were like, "Oh yeah, we want a bit of that money in between Resident Evil releases." I feel like that's where we're at now with that stuff.
More horror games. How about a Halo horror game, huh?
Dude, I would love a Halo horror game. Something like I don't know. You could do like something like Alien Isolation, but with some kind of flood form. I don't know what flood form it would be. There's no real. Are there any stealth flood forms? I don't know. But a flood horror game would be sick. Like even if it was just like you're an ODST armed with nothing in some kind of like base that's overrun with zombie flood, I think that'd be really sick. But we don't get creativity out of Microsoft, do we? Not really.
Jazz. We have a super chat here from Tom Long. It says, maybe Phil Spencer publicly humiliated Tay like he did Crap Gamer, and that's why Tay is so butthurt about all things Microsoft. He definitely has it out for Xbox for whatever reason. But
I'd love to find out why. I'm going to dig into that. I'm going to dig into the history of why that guy really hates Microsoft, because I'm just curious. I'm just really curious because he has a vendetta. It's not even like it's not even like me with my sort of trolling of Apple and trolling of Google. I freely admit, right? The reason I don't like Google is because they blocked YouTube on Windows Phone, right? They blocked it, and I'll take that vendetta with me to the grave. But it's not that serious, right? I don't hate Google. I don't like spend every waking moment writing about Google on Twitter. Maybe if like Google does something hilarious, like shut down Stadia the week before announcing Xbox Game Pass Chromebooks, which is hilarious, I'll comment on it. But it's not like I spend every waking moment thinking about how I don't like Google, or I don't like Apple, or I don't like Meta. It's just I don't really care that much. I don't have that much energy in my life to hate a company like some people seem to have. Oh man, I reserve hate for government figures, really, generally. Like the British government, who are fucking awful.
The British government is awful, aren't they? Metal Morbo says Blink 182 reunion means Tony Hawk 6. Yes.
Man, did you see that? The song Edging? It's really good. I mean, I don't really like punk that much, but I just it's so nostalgic. I'm like really, really happy to like and all the crap that's been going on. And then like to see all the members of Blink back together, reunited after all the bad blood and all the stuff. I think it was really cool. I'm not even a big Blink fan, but it's just the nostalgia factor is just immense. I saw some really great memes where it was like 37-year-olds showing up to the next Blink concert and they're like in the Zimmer frames and stuff like that, right? With lower back problems. Oh man, it's funny stuff, man. I think it's cool though.
Steven Totillo just roasted Take Him, bro.
What does he say?
I can't see, like, Steven Totillo is talking about, like, hey, he read through the CMA's Phase 1 findings yesterday and it was pretty grim. If you're someone who's rooting for the deal to go through, then Take Him says something, I can't see it because I'm blocked. And then M.H. Williams says, fines and appeals, you can see it in the Meta Giphy deal, which the CMA ordered Meta to sell Giphy, but then that was overturned, right? Yeah. And then Steven Totillo says, cool, if Microsoft loses, they should just file a bunch of Take Him's tweets about how untouchable PlayStation is. Because his whole thing is about how before this deal was about how Microsoft can't compete with PlayStation at all. So yeah, we'll submit this as evidence. This guy says we can't compete. Damn, it's getting spicy out there in social media. Just like how spicy Josh Stein and the Xbox social media crew felt waking up what day on Wednesday when Xbox just roasted the trolls. You know what tweet I'm talking about, Jez?
Yeah. The PlayStation better trolls.
Yeah. Let me get this tweet up. Man, they tweet a lot on the official account. They finally brought Apple Music to Xbox. That's pretty interesting. Oh yeah, so we have, please check your candy this year. We found troll posts in ours, and they won't stop repeating the same thing over and over. And it's a picture of a Snickers candy bar broken in two that constantly say PlayStation better, PlayStation better, PlayStation better, which I tweeted out in response. I was like, yo, the social team woke up and chose violence today. And Josh Stein actually liked my tweet too, so he must have. I saw that tweet and I'm like, God damn, holy crap. But dude, the replies to this stuff are like our boy Miles Dompier saying, my candy keeps on saying Xbox has no games. Or, oh dang, I just opened up a Reese's that says Game Pass isn't sustainable. You even responded with, Ouya better. Like,
Ouya,
whatever, however you say that. Jeez.
Do you remember Ouya?
I mean, how could we forget Ouya? But that was definitely, because I've seen those, like a PlayStation better. Okay, like why you on here on the whatever? What a tweet by the team, making people real salty. Oh, some of the PlayStation fans were super salty about that. I thought Phil doesn't like this stuff, man. Sony and Nintendo, they don't engage in this stuff. Stop it. Anyways, before
I swear to God, right? If this deal does get blocked by some kind of miracle, you're gonna see retribution.
Retribution. Ooh.
You're gonna see the gloves come off.
Really?
You're gonna see Microsoft buying up exclusivity deals.
Oh,
you're gonna see
think
Microsoft.
So?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Really?
You're gonna see Microsoft going to town, and they'll get the COD deal back. They'll buy exclusives.
So you think Satya and Phil are gonna be fucking petty? Is what you think?
I don't think they're going to be petty. I think they're going to be doing what Sony are doing. They're going to be like, okay, well, if that's the economic environment we need to compete in, if that's the regulatory, if that's what regulators say we need to do, they'll just copy Sony's strategy and they'll do it a hell of a lot better than Sony because they got a fucking shitload more money. So yeah, Sony's going to like regret going about on this because they're going to.
Let me ask you this question. Right, we've seen the CMA and their concerns about this stuff, about Call of Duty being in Game Pass and stuff, right? About them owning it. But what if Xbox just did business like PlayStation does business, and just timed exclusive the next Call of Duty? Like, say the 2025 Call of Duty comes out, instead of Microsoft owning Activision, say hypothetically gets blocked. But what if Microsoft's like, all right, if that's the game we're gonna play that game. And we're going to buy timed exclusivity for Call of Duty, and we're going to put it in Game Pass on day one, and we're going to actually have the game exclusive for a year, and we'll pay Activision all the money to make up for it. Is that what the CMA wants? Because that's almost kind of how they're talking about it. Like, you can't own this and put it in your own subscription service because it wouldn't be fair to PlayStation. It might give you too much of an advantage. But it's like, okay, well, if we're not going to own it, then how about we just do exactly what PlayStation does for all the third-party stuff and just make it exclusive for a year anyways? Would that be acceptable? And what would the CMA... Because could the CMA come... I guess the question is, the CMA wouldn't like be able to stop that, right?
No.
On a business deal between two companies like that, but because they would own it, then it's a big problem. So I wonder how, petty sort of things Xbox could do if somehow it did get blocked because Sony convinced people or had better lawyers, and then it's Microsoft's like, all right, well, if that's the case, screw it.
Honestly, so Microsoft kind of win either way, because if this deal did get blocked by some miracle, I don't think it's going to get blocked at all. But if it did get blocked by some kind of miracle, that gives Microsoft a mandate to copy Sony's business model, and they can say, well, regulators have said we're not allowed to own this, so we're going to just money hat everything, and we're going to show Sony what real money hatting looks like, and it's going to be bad. It's going to be bad for Sony because Microsoft they'll not only price Sony out of the market for these kind of deals, but they'll also they'll drive up the price of how much you have to charge, how much developers expect for these kind of deals, right? They'll be like, well, Microsoft wants to pay us this much, and then the average price of a money hat will gradually creep up, and it'll get harder and harder for Sony to compete in that space. But, before, when Microsoft did this, we got the entire games media crying about it. They were crying and crying and crying. Oh no, my Tomb Raider. Oh no. We got all these tears, got all this whining. But they'll have a mandate. If this deal gets blocked, they'll have a full-blown mandate to do it, because that's what the regulators have told them is acceptable. Regulators have told them the money hats are acceptable. Sony's been spending years money hatting stuff and getting all these exclusivity deals, and the regulators have said that's fine. Buying bad, money hat fine. So then Microsoft will just have a legal imperative to their shareholders to copy Sony's strategy, And Phil can just come out and say that. And no amount of tears from the media, no amount of tears from any YouTuber or content creator can, violate that, because they'll put Microsoft in a place where they have no choice ultimately. So yeah, I'm for it. I want them to buy Activision Blizzard, because I think this is the only way we get a healthier Activision for the employees. I think this is the only way we get a healthier development cycle for games like Call of Duty. Instead of rushing one out every 2 years, we actually get some innovation maybe with the franchise. I think it's the only way, we stop the slow death of World of Warcraft and actually get some investment back into the franchise for it to grow. I think this is the only way we get StarCraft. I think this is the only way we get franchises like Guitar Hero back, which I was a big fan of back in the day, because Microsoft will want to use those franchises for content diversity on its subscription service. Activision can't make a subscription service because they don't have a platform. And Bobby Kotick, he needs his retail, but he needs his retail stuff. So he's not a huge fan of the all you can eat subscription service, whatever. So, and finally, for the most important thing, we as gamers get better value if Microsoft owns these studios, because it means day and date everything in Game Pass, which is potentially, depending on how much you pay, thousands of dollars of savings per year, potentially, So it's kind of like, that's why I want it to go through. There's just basically a ton of logical reasons, which the CMA seem to want to ignore for some reason. But no matter what happens, we will, benefit as Xbox gamers, at least. But Sony gamers are going to lose out, because they'll lose the money hats, which wouldn't have happened otherwise. They're going to lose games like StarCraft, which could have been multi-platform potentially. And they're going to lose a lot of, the benefits of having an Activision that's run by a company that isn't evil, or less. Let's say less evil. I don't know how evil Microsoft is, but let's just say less evil for the sake of argument, right? They're definitively less evil than Activision and Kotick, at least. But yeah, it's a mess, and this is why I'm just super tired of it, dude.
Yeah, I know you are.
So tired.
I know you are. We have Marco in the super chat saying, if blocked, Phil will have $70 billion worth of retribution. Dragonheart Yobi, what's going on, man? He says, peace, love, life. Keep up the great work, gents. Hard work is indeed. Peace to you all, and much love to the chat. Appreciate you being here, bro. Thanks to everybody in the chat. We have over 1,100 people watching, which is incredible. If you haven't liked the video, please do so. Hit the thumbs up button. It's free. Subscribe if you're new. And, hit the description and check out the link to the Patreon if you want to support more of what we do. We have Viper in the chat saying, if for some reason this deal gets axed, first thing Microsoft to do is get full COD exclusivity going forward after the marketing deal is complete. Then go after GTA 6 as well. Ooh, that would be something.
Yeah, they should go mad.
Yeah. And Face, Microsoft is the one who showed PlayStation how to do these deals during the 360 era, since Sony is a bigger platform with more players. Money handed by Microsoft will only take Xbox so far. Publishers want to lose those players.
Well, they'll have to just pay a premium, and $72 billion, they can afford it, because that money's earmarked for Xbox now, no matter what. So they'll have to pay more than Sony to offset the potential lost customers or whatever. But it'll be worth it because it'll be an investment in the growth and the perception of Xbox as a platform. I think the COD marketing deal is really a really big deal, and I think it's a shame that Microsoft lost that. I think Microsoft kind of like, I think even I said back in the day that it wasn't a big deal, but honestly, it's turned out that yeah, it is. It is a big deal, and the sort of every time you see Call of Duty with PlayStation slapped on it, it creates a perception. It creates this perception that it's better on PlayStation somehow, and in a lot of cases it is because you get extra content, right? So I think it is a problem, and but they can get that back. They can get all that stuff back, and they'll have to pay a premium for it, but it'll be worth it. And
but Face is kind of half right. Like if you're talking about Call of Duty, sure, right? The content stuff that kind of started in the 360 era. But it wasn't very egregious on Microsoft's end. It was like they had 30 days exclusive for the maps and stuff, right? Which is whatever, it's a month. Sony's getting like full year on exclusivity. Like they went to the extreme to get, hey, you can't get this gun and this armor in Destiny for a year, or this stuff in Destiny 2, or all these things in the Call of Duties that we do deals for, right? They're essentially for a year, where Xbox was doing like a month deals. But like Sony was doing deals back in the PS1 and PS2 games. I mean, Grand Theft Auto 3 was a timed exclusive, and so was Vice City and San Andreas, I think. I mean, you look how like Sony built up their empire. It's all around timed third-party exclusives. Back when Sony didn't have a first party to speak of, because nobody really talks about Sony's first party before the PS3 era, because they essentially didn't have one, but they still were dominating because they essentially had all these deals that they had, and they have all the big third-party games on their platform exclusively, like Metal Gear, Devil May Cry, all those things. And that's why it was always a big deal when like Devil May Cry decided to come to Xbox, or Metal Gear and stuff, because those were always seen as PlayStation exclusives, even though they really weren't. That's just kind of the platform that people most recognize it for. So it's not like PlayStation, it wasn't like PlayStation like learned how to do the deal because they watched Xbox do it. It's like they're already doing those deals before, and then like the 360 gen started, and now you actually had DLC. So that's where it's like, oh, we can do exclusivity on DLC and pre-order stuff and all these cool things, right? So yeah. Anyways, thanks for the super chat. Thanks for all the support. We have one here from Viper. Oh, no, I already read the Viper one. One here from Highlander who says, I can see Microsoft just go out and buy, say, 20 or 30% of developers, and that will get games in Game Pass. Make Sony cry. All right. So, we'll talk about here. Let's talk about the Game Pass revenue, Jez, shall we?
Yeah, let's talk about it.
So this came out because of the Brazil. It's interesting how this whole discussion went from last week, the Brazilian government regulators, who seem to have investigated this thoroughly, came to all these, conclusions about it. And then, like the CMA comes to the complete opposite conclusions. Did you see the CMA's like Nintendo's not a part of the market? Did you see the CMA make that argument?
Yeah, it's everything they said is just
everything
bullshit.
Is exactly what PlayStation says. Oh, Nintendo, they're family friendly. Yeah, say that to the 35-year-olds who constantly buy Pokemon every single year,
dude.
Even though the game's made for 10-year-olds.
Fuck that, dude. The number one console platform for hentai is literally the Switch.
Yes.
Hentai is not banned on the Switch, where it is banned on PlayStation and Xbox, or at least the soft core visual novels. Nintendo Switch is rammed with that stuff. So don't try and tell me Nintendo Switch isn't an adult platform.
I know, right?
The CMA is just a joke, man. It's a joke.
Yep. But it kind of leaked out some of the... Because a lot of this info is supposed to be essentially like redacted. But it came out, basically we found out that Microsoft in 2021, they made $2.9 billion in revenue for just console Game Passes. Am I right, Jez, that this didn't include PC Game Pass?
Yeah, it's just console Game Pass. As far as we know, it sounded like the PC figures were not included.
And this is for the January 31st, 2021 through December 31st, 2021, where games and services for Xbox totaled $12.5 billion, 2.9 of that being Game Pass revenue, and 9.6 of that being other. Now, other is probably full game sales, DLC, microtransactions, maybe like Xbox Live Gold revenue, whatever else is in that other category. And then you combine that into total Xbox revenues with the $3.7 billion of hardware, and you get $16.2 billion total Xbox revenue last year, which is, I believe, the highest ever for the company. But the talking point, or at least the big part of this, was essentially the $2.9 billion, because we don't know the revenue that Xbox is pulling in from Game Pass. Because unlike PlayStation and like Nintendo, who I credit, they break this stuff down every quarterly report. Like PlayStation will tell you how many subscribers they have, or if they lost or went up. They'll tell you how many games they've sold in a quarter. They'll tell you how many consoles they shipped in a quarter, which makes sense because Sony's biggest business is PlayStation. And Nintendo does the same because, well, that's the only thing they do. So investors need to see that information. Microsoft is a little bit more protective of Xbox. They don't give that info. Sure, they'll give revenue and stuff like that, but we don't get console sales shipments. We don't get game figure numbers. We don't even get subscriptions every quarter. So this is like, oh, hey, we got a nugget, 2.9 million. And I will be the first to say, well, not the first, but definitely probably one among many saying, it is glorious to see all the goalposts move in real time. It's incredible, actually. Because the argument about Game Pass was that nobody's really subscribed to it. Oh, 25 million, blah, blah, blah. But as you know, those are all just $1 trials, right? There are people pushing that. Hey, these are just $1 trials. Nobody's really paying full price for Game Pass. Game Pass is a never was, right? And it sucks. Like, it's just funny to see people saying how much Game Pass sucks, but then, like, today are being like, Game Pass is going to destroy everything. It's like, can you not go from one extreme to the next? But, so now that we know, well, no, people are paying full price for stuff. It's making $2.9 billion, which is pretty good. We don't know the profit, right? We don't know what their operating loss is. All we know is how much money they brought in. And I was like, hey, that's pretty good, because this is at them at like 18 million subs, right? This is just them starting out, which is why Phil always said it's a sustainable business. It's going to just keep on growing. So what does this even look like? Like, what does that number look like if and when the deal closes and Call of Duty's on Game Pass day one and Diablo 4 and the Bethesda games start coming out? Like Starfield, Redfall, Elder Scrolls, the next id game, when Xbox Game Studio starts getting really going. Like, what does that look like when you're at 30 million? What does it look like when you're at 40 million? What does it look like when you're at 50 million? What does it look like when your vision is finally complete and you have, streaming everywhere on every smart TV? There's an app, an Xbox Game Pass app. When there's a $99 Keystone device that you can easily hook into any TV and play, when it's just ubiquitous to play online, like what does that number look like in the future, right? But
it's interesting actually.
Okay.
Because it feels like recently the cost of cloud streaming has increased quite a bit, which is why you've started seeing some services nickel and dime, or the official term is shrinkflation. Basically, removing features or shrinking the value proposition instead of increasing prices. So instead of increasing the price of something, you basically shrink the product you get. Like you'll see it in stuff like candy bars and ice cream randomly. Like that they'll mysteriously lose a few centimeters, off the size. And that's basically cost cutting, right? To increase margins and stuff in inflationary times. And we've seen streaming services start doing this recently. Didn't Twitch just announce they're lowering the resolution on stuff or something? What was it they did? Twitch did something recently. Like they lowered the amount of money they're going to pay out or something and they blamed the cost of cloud streaming. And also, we've seen Netflix announce a new ad-supported tier for $7 a month with ads, which they said they'd never do back in the day. And we've also seen YouTube have started experimenting with making 4K a YouTube premium feature, because the cost of streaming has gone up. So I wonder, I think one of the reasons Microsoft's growing it pretty slowly, I would say, because I said this on, did I say this last week? I think I said this on the Xbox 2 Ultimate show on Patreon, but I said the fact that they're growing it pretty slowly is sort of like indicative that they aren't, going balls to the wall on wasting money. They're growing it pretty slowly. They're not marketing it that hard. Things like the family plan have only rolled out to a couple of countries because they know it's going to add, if they rolled it out globally instantaneously, it would add a crap load of extra users, which could be bad for the stability of the service, right? And also we've got the chip shortage. I don't know if you saw this week, Rand, but our old buddy Joseph Biden, Biden. I can never remember how to pronounce his name.
Joe Biden.
I'm like Rand with his wrenches and buckets when it comes to Biden beating. But he recently, as of yesterday, I believe, he changed the rules for chip technology in China. So I haven't read too much into it about what the new rules are, but there's essentially sanctions on what technology, American or Western strategic technologies with regards to chips that Chinese companies can have access to. So a lot of these chips that go in servers and stuff, a lot of the work that goes to making those chips, which go into servers, a lot of that now is going to have to be done in the West, which, is more expensive because Western currency and, Western wage expectations and stuff like that. The reason we've had such cheap electronics in recent times is ultimately because the people who make them in China don't get paid very much, frankly speaking. But that's all coming to an end now because they've decided, that we're effectively slipping into a new Cold War where they don't want China having access to Western technology designs, because the chips are designed in America, or they're designed in the West. Qualcomm uses ARM technology, but they're designed in the UK or whatever. And then Intel, obviously designed in America or wherever. And then they're manufactured in places like Taiwan, TSMC, and then a bunch of Chinese semiconductor companies, right? Okay. So all of this stuff essentially is going to make the cost of xCloud potentially higher, which could also potentially upset Microsoft's plans for how rapidly they want to expand it. Because honestly, I feel like if they put Call of Duty and they put Diablo into xCloud as it is right now, that could cause super stability problems or queues or something like that. Because we've already seen queues on xCloud when they added Fortnite to the service. What is it going to add when they add Diablo to the service or Call of Duty to the service? Would they even add Call of Duty to the cloud service? Would they just not let people play Call of Duty mobile or something? I don't know. It's interesting to think about because there's so many plates being spun now with this whole business. There's so many aspects of it and the complexity. There's a huge opportunity to make a hell of a lot of money cornering a completely new market, but there's a huge opportunity to screw it up. You could end up in a situation where your costs vastly outweigh how much you can make, and Spotify's in that situation right now. I don't know if Spotify has been in operation for, I think it's 12 years, something like that. And I think they've only had 2 profitable quarters in their entire existence. And Microsoft doesn't want to be in that situation, I think, with xCloud, which is why they're being quite thoughtful with it. But at the very least, Rand, the 2.9 2.9 billion, 2.1 was it 2.9?
2.9.
It shows the scale of the opportunity. The fact that they have been pretty pedestrian with it, the fact they haven't really marketed it, they haven't really pushed it, they haven't made their own cloud streaming device, which I think is the headline grabbing act, which will help it push to the masses. All this stuff they haven't done, and I think it's because they want to be careful with growing it slowly and not grow too fast in a very, very, very volatile chip market. So either way, it shows that there's demand though. 2.9 billion in revenue. That means Xbox Game Pass is bigger than the entire Surface operation. I think Surface is at about. I think Surface is at 2.1 billion or something like that. That might be an outdated figure actually, but it was only recently that Surface hit 2 billion quarterly revenue, right?
Right.
So I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, 2.9 billion is a lot. I know, but now, like the narrative is, oh well, it went from Xbox not making any money and having no subs to it's not profitable, which isn't what people are arguing. And obviously, we don't know the profitability. All we know is the revenue. I don't know what their operating losses are. But let's just say if Microsoft was spending $3 billion a year to acquire content, I think that should be applauded because, you know what? One of the other sort of talking points people use against Game Pass is that it doesn't support the developers. But if Xbox is literally paying out $3 billion a year, $3 billion plus a year to developers to get their games on there, then we gotta give a round of applause for Xbox as supporting developers, supporting indie developers, basically funding their games. If they're really spending that much money in a single year to bring games for Game Pass, that's quintessentially what I would call supporting developers and their games, right, Jez?
Yes.
I don't know how much money they spend per year. It could be over $3 billion. I don't know. I'm not going to say whether it's profitable or not. That's up to Microsoft. But Phil says it's a really good business and it's very sustainable. So make of that what you will. But then everybody says Phil lies. He's this big giant liar and he's done nothing for Xbox ever and stuff. Like
Phil lies to the SEC.
Yeah, Phil's lied. Did you know they lied? Did you know they lied to the CMA? They told the CMA that they don't use Azure, but they do use Azure. And let me tag the CMA in this post to make sure that they know, because I need this deal blocked, because my life will be in shambles if it isn't.
That's funny.
Great stuff. $2.9 billion. And then did you mention the Xbox Cloud Gaming deal with Meta VR, right?
Yeah, I mean it's just a browser tab. It's not really a big deal.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's the whole Meta thing was so cringe, man.
Is it?
I know for a fact you didn't watch it,
but
you should watch.
No. Hell no.
Yeah, there's one clip you should cringe. You should cringe. Yeah, you should cringe. There's one clip you should watch where it's Zuck announces the big new feature for Horizons or wherever he calls his metaverse chat room thing. Legs was the big new feature, Rand.
Yeah, but apparently that was a lie, though, right?
Yeah, and that's why that's like the next layer of hilarity. So first of all, they show off like legs with like a Kinect, a 2009 Kinect demo level graphics, right? And they're really excited that avatars have legs now, which shows that there's no brains behind there's no brains whatever behind this business. But not only that, they had to admit in a statement to, I can't remember which outlet, I apologize for that, but they had to admit in a statement to an outlet that the legs were fake. The legs were captured using regular motion capture footage rigs. So the avatars didn't even have legs. The big new feature, having legs, wasn't even real. It was just motion capture. So yeah, Meta is laughably bad. You know, if Meta is behaving like one of these sort of venture capital backed startups that are all talk and no substance, except Meta is like this multi-billion-dollar corporation. It's so strange. And to me, it suggests that Facebook was a massive fluke, and that Zuckerberg is actually a moron, and that Facebook is just this sort of massive, the biggest luck fluke of the century, and that Zuckerberg is actually just a dumbass, because this meta stuff ain't it. It ain't it. And I got a theory about why Microsoft's supporting it.
Why? Why do you think they're supporting it?
Do you know Machiavelli?
Machiavelli.
I think Microsoft. This is my conspiracy theory. Shout out to everyone, Saga, but this is my conspiracy theory. I think this is a Machiavellian plot by Microsoft to trick Zuckerberg into thinking that it's a good thing.
Get out of here!
So they keep wasting money. So they're like, oh yeah, Zuckerberg, the metaverse is great. Here, have a browser tab with xCloud in it, and but really, it's all a
aren't they bringing like
trick.
Office 365 and Teams to VR too? It's not just Xbox stuff. It's other Microsoft things.
It's all just a browser tab.
So what you think Microsoft has a ploy where they're like, all right, we need to make sure that Zuckerberg keeps on going down this path so it destroys Facebook, destroys Meta. So we're going to tell him that it's the right way to go. And by doing so, we're going to make sure that Xbox cloud gaming is on there, and that you can have Teams in VR, and just constantly push this idea to Mark that, hey man, you're onto something. Metaverse could be real. You'll be the first ones there. Just spend a few more $1 billion. Piss off your stockholders a little bit more. Is that what you're?
Yeah.
That is a Everborn Saga like level conspiracy theory, and I love that you use Machiavellian, because that would certainly be very Machiavellian of Satya to basically do that.
Yeah, I don't think Satya is that dumb, and I think that's why Microsoft's basically killed its all. Microsoft's essentially killed all of its own metaverse stuff. Alex Kipman's been fired, and all their VR teams have basically been dissolved. Essentially, they're basically just like, they made a few very lightweight apps for the Meta Quest, just to test the waters, the lowest amount of investment possible, just in case, when on the flip side they're leading Zuckerberg down a rabbit hole where he's just burning money on nothing, because it's all just going to be a big fail. I think at best VR will be a fun peripheral for gaming occasionally, not even persistently, just occasionally, and it'll be nowhere for work. I think it's insane, and it's a little bit sick to think that people will ever want to do meetings in VR. No one is ever gonna want to do a meeting in VR. People don't even want to turn on their webcams to do a meeting, man. I know you want them to put on a headset and run around in a 3D avatar. No.
With legs.
Fake legs. They are insane if they think anyone is going to implement this. $400 a headset at least to have a meeting in VR? You are absolutely insane. There might be some niche technological industries where this is a good thing. Like, I think they said they developed the Mars rover using VR so they could easily like pan around the 3D model and, see it and stuff in real time. Maybe then. But telemarketing, when you're in the office getting yelled at by customers, and then your line manager pulls you up and is like, okay, everybody put on your VR headsets. We're going into our VR Microsoft Teams meeting now.
What accent is that?
That's my Rand accent.
Is that's your like American accent?
That's my annoying American middle manager accent.
Okay.
Come on, guys. Let's touch base in the metaverse with our VR headsets, guys. Come on.
Per my last email.
That's my American middle manager accent. And no one's gonna want to do that. They're insane. They're fucking nuts. And Zuckerberg's spending tens of billions of dollars on this. It's Machiavelli, man. It's Machiavellian.
I mean, you might be right. I mean, I haven't seen any of Everborn's conspiracy theories come true, but You might have nailed this one on the head, Jez. You might have. Did you have you given this idea to Cognito?
I did.
And what was his response?
He couldn't say very much for legal reasons.
Ah, yes, legal reasons indeed. Good old Cognito can't say much for legal reasons.
Cog believes in the metaverse, man, and it's kind of it's a fun novelty, and I'm trying to be open-minded, man, but it's just a load of bollocks, isn't it? Really?
Mm. Yeah, we got a super chat here from Caper Grant that says, "Thanks, Rand. Watching your Scoring Grant gameplay, you got me past the part where I've been stuck for an hour and a half." Well, that would be Jez's gameplay. So thank you, Jez, for helping Caper get past through something he was stuck in. Now,
I actually tried to edit out some of the puzzle solutions so it wouldn't be spoilers for people. But if it helped you, great.
There you go. You helped somebody. Also, we talk about the Xbox DVR in the podcast sometimes about how crap it can be. They are testing something in the alpha where 720p and 1080p resolutions got a 30% increase in bitrate, Jez.
Yeah, I actually went and tested it out, and the first time I recorded a clip, the whole shell crashed.
The whole shell crashed. Okay.
So maybe still some issues to work out, but I have to say, when I did get it working, and I think it might have crashed just because the game was suspended or something, and it was expecting the old DVR, something like that. I don't know. But when I did get it working, the clips did look crisper. I'll give them that. You know, a higher bit rate means less artifacting, presumably. But at the same time, it's not what I want, really.
And it's interesting that they only increased the 720p, 1080p bitrate, but not the 4K bitrate.
Yeah, I think one of the issues they've got with the Xbox operating system is there's no enough RAM allocation for it. They're trying to come up with solutions to problems that you would generally solve by allocating RAM, I think. And obviously they can't do that at this point.
Yeah. Well, I wonder if this goes, your other conspiracy theory about them using clip chant goes in the wayside, because if they were going to use that, why would they be increasing the bitrate for 720p and 1080p if they were just going to be using something else in the future?
Clip champ is just an editor. So you have to record the clips first. And then what my conspiracy theory about clip champ was, you'd record the clips using the game DVR, and then they'd link up Clipchamp to your cloud storage files or whatever. And because it already links up to OneDrive, right? Clipchamp does. So that was my conspiracy theory about that. But again, I think you run into the RAM problem, because even on my computer, I tried to edit the Scorn footage in Clipchamp, and my browser crashed because the file was 15 gigabytes or something. So I think there's a hard limit on what you can do with a browser-based editor as well. I think HTML5 or whatever it is, I don't know. I'm not a web developer anymore. I used to be back in the day, but I'm very, very out of date with my knowledge on all this crap. But I want to believe, man. I want to believe, because I think Microsoft's lack of attention to the video stuff flies in the face of the era we live in. You know, the Gen Z era, where everyone expects video this, video that. I was actually in a social media meeting at work today, even though it's supposed to be on a day off. I still had a meeting to go to, about social media. And there was a big discussion about how our traffic from Facebook is absolutely cratered because they're skewing it towards video now. Because of TikTok. Everything's TikTok. There's TikTok that. And obviously, if people are watching a video, they ain't going to click on a link at the end. So that's the sort of the world we live in right now. And where's Microsoft in that world? They are literally nowhere. We've only just got a video editing program natively for Windows after how many years of not really having one. And we have the very most basic stuff on Xbox as well. They're missing a trick here. It's free marketing, sharing a clip. Actually, did you see my tweet about Chivalry?
I did see, yes.
Yeah, I tweeted a clip of me throwing an axe across the map in Chivalry 2 and impaling someone in the head, and it got like 1,000 likes or something. and it actually got more page impressions than our actual review of Chivalry. So it's kind of shows you the power of social media these days with regards to some of this stuff, and that's what people expect now. That's what youngsters expect. They just want video. Show me a 15-second video. I don't want to read no article. I don't want to click on a link. I don't want to pay for my content. I don't want to help Jez get money on his table, feed his starving family. I'll be yeah. That's
Manscaped.
That's the world we live in.
Code XB2. Or patreon.com/XB2.
Yeah.
Oh
man. Or the unskippable YouTube ads.
Yeah. Fred really enjoyed your voice there, Jez, in the super chat. Fried Melon says, "Not
Brilliant.
gonna lie, Jez, that voice you made sounded like one of my bosses, and I work in tech support." Say something else in that voice. Let's give it something else.
Man, I got performance anxiety now. You have to give me a line.
People seem to like it, man.
Maybe I should be a voice actor.
Maybe you should be.
Maybe I should be a voice actor.
Because I couldn't tell you're from the UK, man. a lot of UK actors, they do their their US accent. You can't even tell they're from.
Yeah, it's because we grow up on your bloody television and your music. I was in a band, right? I had a band since I was about 16 I stopped making music when I was in my early 20s. But I sing in an American accent. I can't help it.
Mm.
I literally, because I learned to sing listening to American musicians, like Kurt Cobain and stuff like that. So I was singing this really weird sort of Ozzy Osbournean, the Osbournes.
No, I've never heard of Ozzy Osbourne or Black Sabbath or the Osbournes. Never heard of them.
Yeah, but you know the TV show, right? With their kids and stuff.
Yeah, of course.
So both their parents are from the West Midlands, like me, but they grew up in LA or wherever. So like their kids have this really weird half West Midlands, half Los Angeles accent. It's so strange. And that's the kind of accent that I sing in, and I just can't help it. It's like the Rammstein song, "We All Live in America," right?
Pushing Polygons wants to know if are we going to get you singing. That'd be a Patreon tier. You hear Jez sing a song during Xbox Ultimate. He'll sing, once everybody leaves, the few people that can stay, or can join a Discord call, and Jez will sing a song from, one of his favorite bands.
I actually have a song on Spotify, but you'll never find it.
Really? You actually have a song on Spotify?
Yes, I do.
People in the chat, we need to find this song so we can, yes.
I actually have a song on YouTube as well.
You have a song on YouTube? Oh, well, we can find that one?
You'll find that pretty easily because it's got my name on it.
You and Miles should start a band. Miles,
I'd love to.
Miles got the look.
Oh, actually, for my birthday, my girlfriend got me digital drums. They're like drumsticks, which you don't even need drums for. They're like air drumsticks, and they detect where you're hitting the air and then play the corresponding drum. They're really, really cool. So I'm gonna learn to play drums.
So you know what? Let's talk about the CMA, Xbox, PlayStation.
Didn't we already talk about the CMA?
Man, not really. We're just.
Come on.
We
have to.
I know. Well, apparently you love talking about it on Defining Duke. Cognito was telling me that you had the spiciest of spicy takes. That you're basically delivering content to them when you should be delivering that content for us. I never get spicy takes from you about this stuff.
I can't even remember what I said.
Well, it was basically, I don't know. So, I don't even know where to begin. I guess I'll just...
Okay. Give us your take then. Let's start... Well, let's get the super chats if there's any back.
There's none. We're good. We're good. Got them all done. We're good.
Okay.
I'll start off with what the CMA said. And I want, because Cognito was like, oh, Jez was killing it. He was destroying PlayStation in the CMA. I'm like, what? Every time we talk about the shit on my show, Jez is like, I don't care, whatever. I don't got nothing to say. Well, Rand, what do you think? What's your spicy take this week? I never get anything from you.
About the government. I ranted about the government.
I don't think it was about the government. I think it was either way.
It was. It was about the government.
So the CMA said there's a realistic prospect of a substantial lessening of competition in gaming consoles, multi-game subscription services, and cloud gaming services. They're concerned that having full control over Activision Blizzard's catalog in light of Microsoft's already strong position in gaming consoles, operating systems, and cloud infrastructures could result in Microsoft harming consumers by impairing Sony, Microsoft's closest gaming rival, abilities to compete as well as that of other existing rivals and potential new entrants who could otherwise bring healthy competition through innovative multi-game subscriptions and cloud gaming services. And, Microsoft had enough. It was basically like, gloves off. We're going to war. Basically accused them of siding or taking, what do they accuse them of? Like siding with Sony, not really like looking into all this stuff. Basically saying that like you're taking what Sony says to you at face value and applying it to everything. And there was this one quote here that basically Sony was telling the regulators that people will switch. COD players will likely switch to Xbox even without exclusivity. And they say that Sony told the CMA that even if COD games remained available on PlayStation following the merged entity would still be able to engage in partial foreclosure by increasing the differentiation between the versions of COD available on Xbox and PlayStation. According to SIE, gamers may expect that COD on Xbox will include extra content and enhanced interoperability with the console hardware. In addition, any benefits from membership in Xbox Game Pass. And Sony submitted these factors are likely to influence gamers' choice of console. Now, I mentioned before that this was sort of one of the things that I read, and I just couldn't believe what I was reading. Because the irony is so thick. Mainly because it's like... And I know Sony knows this, because they're saying that like Xbox... People are going to leave PlayStation to play an Xbox because of Call of Duty. And that's not fair to us because they could have extra features, extra content. The game may run better or it'd be free on Game Pass. And we just can't have that. And the utter hypocrisy, but it's not even the hypocrisy, it's the shame, the unabashed shame that they say this with a straight face to a government regulator being like, yeah, that extra content, we can't have that on a game that they already engage in that practice on, And like the fact that the CMA is taking this at face value and not even sort of pushing back on any of it is just head scratching to me. But I mean, it really shouldn't, considering this whole thing started with them saying that Microsoft could result in harming consumers by harming Sony. And that's kind of been like the whole narrative, is that the CMA seems to be protecting PlayStation's number one market position. And, the Brazilian regulators last week kind of threw a shot at them, PlayStation and the CMA, by saying they're not here to protect anybody's business interest or market leader position. They're here to protect competition and the protecting consumers. So yeah, you have this whole stuff with them, and then Microsoft basically came out and was like, listen, your concerns are misplaced. And they gave a whole bunch of reasons, one being that Sony has been the market leader for like 20 years with over double the user base of Xbox. Sony engages in conduct today which is reflective of its market power in console gaming, including increasing prices of its consoles without fear of losing market share, suggesting that the incumbent market leader with the clear and enduring market power can be foreclosed by the third largest provider as a result of losing access to one title is not credible. They basically say even if like all those PlayStation gamers who only played COD switched to Xbox, that the gamer user base on PlayStation would still be larger than Xbox. And a whole bunch of other stuff, basically saying like how many more games PlayStation has. They have 280 exclusives compared to like 50 for Xbox. They talk about how they're like third in consoles, seventh in PC, and nowhere in mobile. They sort of, Xbox is like presenting themselves as like kind of, I'm trying to use the right word here. Like, I don't want to say pathetic, but they're presenting themselves to the CMA, at least their position in gaming, as insignificant. that, hey, we're not a threat to anybody. Look how bad we are. Like, we're in last place in consoles. We're 7th in PC. We don't even have a mobile presence.
I think it's really funny and sad they said they don't have a mobile presence because they really threw the Microsoft casual games team under the bus there, because Microsoft Solitaire has one of the highest monthly active user bases on mobile. And so does Minecraft. Well, Minecraft is like consistently at the top of the Apple App Store. Is that not a presence in mobile to some degree?
I don't know.
Maybe?
But I mean, like, and I've said this before, Microsoft's got a lot riding on this, so they're going to present themselves as not a threat, you know, and they're going to try to say, like, look, PlayStation's they're overreaching on these things, while PlayStation's going to do what they do, even if they look ridiculous, if they look like hypocritical, like, even if they look like hypocrites, even if they say things that make you scratch your head and say, that's a load of bullshit. Like, they're talking to regulators who don't have a clue about the video game industry. I think. Like, I don't think any of these people they don't know anything to do with video games. And PlayStation's number one there, so they're gonna take it from PlayStation and be like, oh, okay, this is how things are working. Oh, so I know some people say, like, oh, this is corruption. I think it's more pure incompetence. That they just don't know anything about the video game industry, and they're just taking, the third parties at their word. And little old Microsoft, and one day, like, you tweet today that they got no games and they suck, but then the next tweet is, oh my God, you gotta stop them because if they get Call of Duty, Sony's done for. Like, do you realize what you say when you say that? Like, the idea that Sony would be done for if they lost Call of Duty is so absurd, right? Because that's basically admitting that all of Sony's deals they have with, like, Square Enix for the Final Fantasy games don't matter. That Last of Us and all their great franchises they have, like God of War, and all the stuff that they've been building for generations are insignificant in the face of one single franchise. A franchise that isn't on Nintendo, but yet Nintendo has no problem selling consoles, no problem selling the dreams and video games to, 30-year-olds and 40-year-olds and 20-year-olds and 10-year-olds. But the CMA classifies that as, not part of the same market, which is fucking ridiculous, right?
Yeah, how many hands do people have? Do they think I can hold a Nintendo Switch and an Xbox controller at the same time? Am I playing Xbox?
Apparently, it's not the same market. It's not the same market. Even though you have this, like, most people grew up with Nintendo, and I think they're still fans of Nintendo and buy Nintendo products because they want to play Nintendo games. But, like, the idea that, like, oh my God, you lost Call of Duty, even though Microsoft also admitted that they have no intention of taking Call of Duty away. And they even go further in talking about how basically they need the game on PlayStation to make the money back, right? You saw the little response, right? Where Xbox was like, yeah, we need this on PlayStation. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, Microsoft has no intention to take Call of Duty away from gamers, and indeed is publicly committed not to do so. The value of Call of Duty depends on its community of gamers, the majority of whom are on PlayStation. Keeping Call of Duty on PlayStation is therefore a commercial imperative for the Xbox business and the economics of the transaction. As such, Microsoft has also offered Sony a contractual commitment to continue supplying it with Call of Duty, including new releases with feature and content parity. The referral decision fails to explain why, in the CMA's view, Microsoft would make such commitments publicly and privately, which are also reflected in its internal documents, if it had no intention of honoring them. Foreclosure strategies of the type outlined in the referral decision would alienate the Call of Duty gamer base and tarnish both the Call of Duty and Xbox brand, undermining the rationale for the transaction. Microsoft would place at risk over a bunch of money in annual revenue from sales of Call of Duty on PlayStation, as well as substantial revenues from other Xbox games distributed via PlayStation. Microsoft has been clear that it is counting on revenues from the distribution of Activision Blizzard games on PlayStation. Like, they basically lay it out there like, yo, we need the game on PlayStation to make money for us, right? So, what was I even saying? I just completely lost my train of thought. Why did I even bring that up?
You were talking about how Sony was like,
oh yeah, like about the whole idea of, like, saying that Sony would die off if they lost Call of Duty, which I think is ridiculous. Number one, they're not losing Call of Duty, and number two, even if they did lose Call of Duty, I still think PlayStation would still be bigger the gap might close, but like PlayStation has all these other things, all these other games they're making. Like every week I hear about how amazing PlayStation games are. Is that every week I hear about from fans that's the reason people buy PS5s? Is that not true? Or because
Rand,
what?
What if?
What if? Okay, give me it.
Have you ever read Machiavelli?
Oh, all right. Are we going for another? Are we going down a rabbit hole here or another?
Microsoft, right?
Okay.
Is fighting this point so hard that their whole game plan is to make this whole argument revolve around Call of Duty and whether or not it's going to be exclusive. What if that's the whole point, right? What if that's the Machiavellian strategy they've got here? And then one day they'll just be like to regulator, okay, you win. We promise we'll keep Call of Duty on PlayStation, and here it is in writing, you know. And then the CMA feels like they've won and they've done their job and justified their consultancy fees, and then Sony can go back to their shareholder and say, look, we got to win. Look, here's a piece of paper. And then Microsoft sort of sneaks off into the sunset, fully comfortable in the knowledge that was the plan all the fucking long anyway. You know, what if that is the plan, Rand? The Machiavellian plan? Because all this stuff, it feels more like it revolves around controlling narratives and setting expectations. It's almost like bargaining a business deal, you know. Well, I suppose it is bargaining a business deal, but it's almost like they're negotiating with the CMA rather than Activision itself at this point. You know, it's so strange. And I think the point that I made in Defining Duke was about what the CMA actually want out of it. The CMA, they're independent of the government technically, but they're still part of the establishment, right? They still answer to the government, and their job is to the government, really. And this is why it's so strange to me, because Microsoft is a huge vendor for the UK government. The entire civil service in the UK, they use Microsoft 365, they use Microsoft Teams, and they use Surface devices. So they have a massive contract with Microsoft. So I have to wonder, hang on a sec. The British government is a massive customer of Microsoft on the business side. What are they really angling for here? You know, are they angling for some kind of concession on something else? It just feels a bit like it doesn't feel like. I mean, the Occam's razor suggests, Rand, what you said, that really it's just pure incompetence. And to be honest, that's probably what it is. Because if you look at what the CMA has been doing over the years, if you look at the British government establishment in general, it's a fucking shit show. It's a joke. The British establishment from A to Z is run by idiots, morons, and complete clowns. And they're all on the take. They're all corrupt. They're all working for hedge funds while shorting the pound. And they're doing everything they can to make money for them and their mates rather than serve the British people, you know. And if you look at the CMA, if you really looked at it and the kinds of deals they get upset about, it's often not things that benefit mates of mates within the government. It's all like a big boys club, you know. It's all like a big boys club, and it all gets swept under the rug because the media is part of it as well, you know. And we're getting dangerously into conspiracy theory territory here. But there's all these kinds of investigations into the UK. Like when the pandemic started, a lot of the government contracts for, you know, personal protective gear, equipment, PPE gear, like masks and stuff for NHS hospitals, weirdly, all those companies seem to be run by friends and family of the British government. So part of me wonders if some of this, you know, regulatory logic leaps, you know, this mental gymnastics is really not about thinking, oh, Microsoft has a lot of money. How can we somehow funnel some of that money from Microsoft to our mates in the government? How can we not somehow get the taxpayers to fund some consultants that we can pay, you know, hundreds of thousands of pounds for like 5 minutes work, which is something else they do a lot of, doing a court case that we know we're going to lose, but at least our mates will get a payday out of it. That's often how the British government seems to operate. That's a lot about how these quangos seem to operate, you know. So, I just think it's a load of bollocks. And I think ultimately the only thing that's happening here is they're stalling the deal. There's no argument to be made for consumers about this being a bad thing. Someone somewhere in this argument is on the take.
Whoa.
And I think, it's corruption in the legalest possible way at the end of the day, because that's all the government can do in this country. Figure out ways of siphoning off taxpayer money to pay their consultant mates under the table. Like, oh yeah, help us consult on this case. Here's 300 grand of taxpayer money, here and there. They did it all through the pandemic. They do it all through all their other government bodies. And, it's just the way it is in this country. So I have literally no faith in the CMA to actually serve the people. And evidently, from what they've said, they're not interested in serving the people. They're not interested at all. This is about them getting a concession out of Microsoft, who they know has a lot of money. That's what it's about, really, in my view, my assumption.
Jeez.
Man, I should start a conspiracy theory channel like
you
Alex
should,
Jones.
because I was just saying it was. I was just saying it was. It was just gross incompetence. But
well, Alex Jones is bankrupt now, so there's a gap in the market.
yeah. Because then I think they even went on to say today that they started talking about like more information about this stuff. They said that Microsoft's first-party titles are not available and in any multi-game subscription service other than Game Pass, even where those titles are available for purchase on rival consoles. Like, how is that even a negative? Like, what is is Stranger Things supposed to be on Hulu and Disney Plus? Is The Mandalorian and Andor supposed to be on Netflix?
It's just
like
it's utter incompetence. I know in reality that it is just the incompetence. It's just the thick-headed, ignorant shitheads that the government puts in charge of everything in this country.
But that's also
the relentless incompetence.
That's also like really disproven because Deathloop is on PS Plus, and so is a bunch of other Bethesda games. Now you can make the argument like, oh, they bought those and those don't matter, but like I would still question like, why does it matter if Microsoft other first-party titles are not available on PlayStation Plus? Nobody's saying anything about PlayStation's games not being on Xbox Game Pass. Like, why isn't Spider-Man or God of War or Last of Us on Game Pass? Like they're presenting it as a bad thing. They go on to say Microsoft internal documents further highlight its incentives to foreclose rivals in multi-game subscription services. Third parties, aka Sony, told the CMA that Microsoft would benefit from making Activision's content exclusive to Game Pass, and that this would be consistent with Microsoft's behavior in relation to past acquisitions, including that of ZeniMax Media, where Microsoft did not uphold its promise to continue making Bethesda content available on multiple stores and platforms. Another bold-faced lie. Can someone point me to the promise that Microsoft made that they were going to make Bethesda games be everywhere? Did I miss this promise, Jez?
It was never promised.
It was never promised. They only said that
it was implied from the get-go.
I don't understand. Like, what are they like? How deeply did they investigate any of this shit? Right? I don't like. How do you make these things and not know? Because according to this document, like the Bethesda games are, Bethesda ZeniMax is considered first party, so like there's plenty of then there would be plenty of first party games. But even still, like, who would expect that? And Microsoft has offered Game Pass to PlayStation, and they don't want it. So it's like, well, okay. So Microsoft is supposed to put their games on somebody else's subscription service, but then not get any of Sony's games on their own on Xbox's Game Pass. It seems like everything's always just flowing one direction here.
Yeah, it's like they're repeating Sony's talking points verbatim.
Yeah, and they go on to say
it's not impartial at all. It's so strange.
The CMA found
that someone's on the take.
The Game Pass holds a strong position in multi-game subscription services pre-merger, and most of its competitors are significantly smaller in terms of user base and revenues. Maybe that's because nobody invested heavily into it. This is the other thing I don't get, right? They're saying Game Pass is the biggest and the best right now, and everybody else is significantly smaller, I would say, well, that's because nobody has invested in a game subscription service like Xbox has. PlayStation did it first, and they failed at it.
Literally, yeah.
I mean,
literally, they developed a new service to disrupt the market, to bring value to consumers. They literally did what the very function of capitalism. If for all of capitalism's ills, one of the supposed benefits, and I don't want to debate capitalism right now. Thank you very much. But one of the supposed benefits of capitalism is that companies fight for our money, and I would argue that Game Pass is a prime example of a scenario where a company has sat up and thought, right, how can we deliver value so much that it disrupts the market and brings consumers to us? They fought for our money by undercutting the competition, which is the function of capitalism, supposedly. So all these trickle-down economists, tell me is the point of capitalism, right? That ironically, the people running our government seem to be in love with. What you're telling me now that's a bad thing? Why? The only logic behind it being a bad thing is if someone's on the take, as if there's some kind of, sneaky backhand deal going down,
mm-hmm.
Maybe they want it to go to court so they can pay a consultant mate. I would love it if the media in the UK would actually do something to investigate this shit properly. But of course they don't, because they're all in on it together. I'm going to start my conspiracy theory podcast next week.
They go most
conspiracies with Jez.
Most Game Pass rivals lack the popularity and range of content that Game Pass would own post-merger. Given the importance of Activision's content, current and future rivals could be affected by any foreclosure strategy using that content. Once again, is it Xbox's fault that no other subscription service has the same popularity and range of content? Like, this is the other thing I don't see. Like, PlayStation clearly invested in something different. They went with the traditional console model, clearly. Xbox pivoted and was like, okay, we're still going to do the console, but we're going to invest in subscriptions and cloud, right? We're going to pivot. But now, because of this and because of what they've been doing, suddenly this isn't good enough, or this is too big for everybody else. It's like, well, you haven't given Sony the amount of time. It's just, I don't get it. And they go, multi-game subscription services is a nascent market that exhibits both direct and indirect network effects. Combining Game Pass as the strongest incumbent with Activision's important gaming catalog could substantially reduce competition as a result of total or partial foreclosure or a combination of both. This could raise barriers to entry, reduce the number of competitors to one or only a few providers, and significantly increase Microsoft's market power. Well, yeah, isn't that the whole point? The merger may cause this effect or at least accelerate this process, thereby depriving consumers of a longer period of competition between platforms. I mean, when they say significantly increase Microsoft's market power, Sony's basically telling them this is going to decrease our market share. I mean, because this idea that it will deprive consumers of a longer period of competition. What do you mean? They've been competing since 2013. Is this that the consumers basically said, fuck no to PlayStation Now, to the point where PlayStation had to merge it with PlayStation Plus, which, as of right now has more subscribers and brings in more money than Xbox Game Pass does. But the idea here of adding Call of Duty to Game Pass is somehow going to stop Sony from competing in that market, I still think is ridiculous. I think it's because Sony doesn't want to compete in that way. They really don't want to support PlayStation Extra, PlayStation Premium, right?
They want to do the Kotick. They want their retail dominance.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want a subscription service because it reinvents the market and sort of would force them to compete in a way that they just don't want to. And the unfortunate reality for that is it benefits consumers. So I don't know why the CMA would ever stop that. Why would they, if they did even the vaguest sense of due diligence, and I don't know why Microsoft actually doesn't bring this point up themselves, Call of Duty could either cost you $60, $70 a year, $70 in the US, right?
What would it be?
$70.
How much would that be in the UK? I mean, if you're
That's
Nick
60
in
quid
Australia, that's like 120 buckaroos or kangaroos or whatever Australian money is. Dingaroos, whatever it's called.
Yeah, I can't remember. Yeah,
Didgeridoos or something like that.
yeah, didgeridoo dollars. I don't know what they're
It's a
called.
lot of didgeridoos over there in Australia.
A lot of didgeridoos, but it's the fact that it's they're trying to stop this, which it just boggles the mind, because you can either pay for one copy of Call of Duty or 7 months of Xbox Game Pass. It's like if your job is to if your job is to protect consumers, why are you trying to make them pay more? And the only logic there is because someone's on the take. Someone is on the take. I would be completely.
I disagree with you on that one. I think it's just incompetence.
No. I think someone's being bribed, man.
I don't know about that.
I don't know. It came out this week that a former member of the current establishment, Nick Clegg, who used to be in partnership with the Conservative government in the UK, was taking bribes from OnlyFans to blacklist Instagram models on their platform to force them to use OnlyFans more or something like that. So, it's not unheard of for a British politician to take a bribe from an American tech company. Just putting it out there, I'm not suggesting that's what's happening, but, just putting it out there. Old Nick Clegg, who British listeners will remember as thoroughly incompetent Deputy Prime Minister from a few years ago, allegedly been taking bribes from OnlyFans of all companies while working at Facebook. Because Nick Clegg, of course, now is in charge of media communications for Facebook, which is hilarious in of itself. The worst job in the world, possibly. I hope they're paying him a lot for that one. But clearly, old Nicky boy, is not happy with the amount of money he's getting from Meta, because it feels like he needs to take extra bribes from OnlyFans, which is, allegedly, by the way. Only allegedly. So it's not unheard of. It's not unheard of for a British politician to take a bribe from a tech company.
In the super chat, the brightest sun says Sony is damaging its relations with third parties as they are trying to dictate to them via regulators not to sell if it affects Sony's bottom line. Space Channel 5, she says, it's Saturday morning and I have half a bottle of vodka, but I'm still 28. 33% of these statements are true. Okay. And Dead Planet says Spider-Man Horizon God of War is the new Halo, Gears, and Forza. Sounds like it. Sounds like it indeed. Yeah. It's just one of those things where, like if this stuff was more once a month instead of every week, because now I'm just like, well, what's going to happen next week? So, just when you think something like, okay, maybe the talk's going to die down, because we have I want to say, is it the EU or the FTC sort of says something on November 8th, which is less than a month from now, right? Because you still got the EU and the FTC to go, right? And, what happens if one of them is just like, hey, there's no problems here? What happens if one of them's like Brazil and they're like, no problems, no restrictions, I don't see the big deal. And then it all, goes again, Maybe Sony feels that the UK was their best place to sort of get any preferential treatment, and they knew they wouldn't really get one from the FTC or the EU. Maybe that's why Flying Jim Ryan took the trip to Brussels. He's just like, I can count on the CMA in the UK to have my back because that's where I'm from, but I got to do the legwork in other places. So
is he British?
I don't know. I don't know if he's British, but
I would be surprised.
Space Channel 5, she says Cassette Boy versus Liz Truss, new tax plan.
Okay. Oh yeah, go and listen to that later. It's a parody rap song about our thoroughly incompetent, probably soon to be ex-prime minister.
Click says the new Need for Speed will be in Chicago. Are you going to play it? Yeah, I'm probably going to play it. I don't know if I play it right away because that's the same day Callisto Protocol comes out, but I will definitely play their fictionalized Chicago. Panda Man says life can suck. Your podcast brings joy. Thank you. Well, I'm glad that we can.
Brings me joy too. And you guys do.
Yes,
I love you guys.
I'm glad.
I'm not even drunk. I'm not even drinking.
You're not even drunk, and you know he means it because he's not drunk.
Yeah.
So
I have a liter of Kraken here.
A liter.
From my good friend Jenny.
A liter.
And Daryl. They got me a liter of Kraken spiced rum, but it's not particularly nice to drink neat, and I have no Coca-Cola, so I don't mind drinking it neat with an ice cube or something. But you get drunk very, very quickly that way. Very, very quickly. As we found out last week.
Yes. Yes, we did. But you know what? Let's take some of the questions from the Patreon crew. You can always leave your questions on the Patreon.
It's past midnight.
I know. Well, we'll get through this quick. Thank you guys for dropping the questions over on Patreon.
I didn't realize it.
And I wonder if next week we'll be talking more about this whole Xbox Activision deal. If you're leaving, thank you guys for being here. Make sure you hit the like button on your way out. Subscribe if you're new. You can always check out the Patreon. Links in the description for all that stuff. We got another exclusive podcast coming in a couple weeks. But let's look at some of these questions that people have. We have one from Achievement that says, with all the evidence that we got about how Sony prioritizes feature parity for games that are on PlayStation and demanding it for COD, is it possible that even though we have seen ray trace Minecraft running on Xbox, it hasn't been released due to a parity requirement for either games as a service or crossplay games on PlayStation?
Ooh, that's an interesting conspiracy theory.
You want to know something, Jez? You want to know something? When people talk about the parity clause, I always sort of push back and says, I don't really think it means what you think it means. I think it's more about like content or having the versions be as close to as possible. However, with that said, when you got Sony out here complaining to the CMA that, oh my God, we're so concerned that people would choose Xbox over PlayStation for COD because it's either going to have new extra content, which PlayStation currently does, or the version on Xbox is going to be better. To me, that's like, well, why would you be worried if the version on Xbox could be better? Unless you actually know it can be better. And the reason it's not better is because you're specifically blocking it from being better. That's my conspiracy theory, because it's just odd that it's there. Unless they're implying that Microsoft, if they took control of Call of Duty, would make the Xbox version better and intentionally hinder the PlayStation version. But when I read that, I'm just like, maybe they feel like, oh, yeah, we're the ones intentionally holding back the COD version, maybe? It's my speculation. I don't know about any of this stuff, but it's definitely interesting that it's in their list of quote-unquote demands. I don't know. How do you feel? Is this a good conspiracy theory from Achievement? I gotta say, this is better than any ones I've ever seen from Everborn.
I find it intriguing, and that might be something that I could dig into and find out something about. Because it does boggle the mind why they announced a super duper graphics pack with a musical. They announced it with a fucking musical. I'm sorry, but if you're announcing a game or a DLC with a fucking musical, one would have to assume said DLC is going to come out at some point. So could it really be something like that? It violated a clause in their contract with Sony or Mojang? Maybe when they bought Mojang initially, there was some kind of maybe Notch himself just was like, we want Minecraft to be, the same game as it is everywhere, right? And then Microsoft, I don't know.
And
could be that.
That's the other thing.
That's what Bungie's done, right? Bungie's negotiated that they want to, basically keep Destiny everywhere, right?
Yes.
So maybe it's not even PlayStation. Maybe that's a Notch thing.
But that's the other thing I didn't even bring up. Did you see the little thing where like the CMA's like, well, following the history of Microsoft acquisitions, and they mention all the acquisitions, we believe that they do the same for Call of Duty, even though there's one example of one big example where it goes against that, where it's Mojang and Minecraft, where they've kept it everywhere. But that's not even what I want to talk about for just a second here, because I don't know if you saw it, Jez, but they literally put Bleeding Edge in their article and Project Midnight from Compulsion as like Oh, you bought Compulsion, and it seems like Midnight's going to be. Nobody even knows what Midnight is. Nobody cared about what Compulsion was making before they were bought by Xbox.
No. What article is that?
This is from the CMA document.
The CMA mentioned Midnight?
Yes. You didn't see this?
No,
bro.
It doesn't even exist.
Exactly.
Officially.
But they brought it up. I don't know if they credited you or not, but they brought up like, oh well, they bought Ninja Theory, and then Ninja Theory put out Bleeding Edge, and then Hellblade 2 is exclusive, and also Compulsion, and they're working on Project Midnight, which is going to be exclusive. It's like, are these people really using Bleeding Edge and Midnight as like?
Midnight isn't even official. You know, it'd be hilarious.
What
if Microsoft came out and said Project Midnight is multi-platform?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's not going to be.
It's probably not. It'd be hilarious if they did.
Did I say? I think I did save that. Let me see if I can find it. I'm gonna read this to you because I think you can't believe it, just like I couldn't believe it when I saw it. I was like, are they really? Oh, hold on, let me find. Let's see.
Well, that's dumb as hell that they even mentioned a game that isn't even announced and only exists because of some asshole leaker.
Yeah, you.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, here we go. Found it. It says the CMA found a pattern of Microsoft acquiring development studios and making their upcoming games exclusive to Xbox. All these studios developed games for other gaming consoles before being acquired from Microsoft. These include ZeniMax Media. Microsoft chose to make several of ZeniMax Media's major gaming franchises exclusive in consoles to Xbox, including the upcoming game Starfield, and based on Microsoft public statements, The Elder Scrolls 6 following its 2021 acquisition. So now you're believing Microsoft's public statements about Elder Scrolls being exclusive, but not Microsoft's public and private statements about keeping Call of Duty on PlayStation. Bullshit. Like, I don't know how you can believe their public statements in one thing and then completely disregard their other public statements.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I might write a blow by blow,
and then
I need your help on this. I need to write a blow by blow.
Blow by blow.
Blow by blow.
Blow by blow. Okay.
Yeah. Like account of all the hypocrisy in this CMA bullshit.
There's a lot. Obsidian.
There's a lot. It'd be a long article.
Microsoft chose to make The Outer Worlds 2 and the upcoming Avowed exclusive to Xbox consoles following its acquisition. In Exile, this developer is now developing an Xbox exclusive game following its acquisition by Microsoft. Ninja Theory. This developer, acquired by Microsoft in 2018, released an Xbox exclusive game, Bleeding Edge, in 2020, and its upcoming Hellblade 2 is planned to be released as an Xbox console exclusive. And Compulsion. The developed upcoming game Midnight will be exclusively on Xbox following its acquisition by Microsoft. So, like, CMA is pointing out that, oh my god, the sky is blue. When companies get acquired, normally their games become exclusive to that platform. But then don't point out the specific instance where that didn't happen with Minecraft because of how huge it was. And is saying Elder Scrolls is going to be exclusive based on Microsoft's public statements, but at the same time doubting Microsoft's public statements about the intention to keep Call of Duty multi-platform. It's sad that they had to include Bleeding Edge and a game that doesn't even exist yet, Midnight. I thought you'd find that funny. Because I sure did.
I mean, Bleeding Edge basically doesn't exist anymore.
It doesn't. Yeah.
And was it even ever in development for PlayStation?
Probably not. I don't know. Face says, is Gotham Knights releases without a 60 FPS option, would they face backlash? From console gamers, people will be very, very vocal that they don't like that. Would it actually face sales backlash? I'm not too sure. I think a lot of people might get it simply because it's Batman or the Batman family. I do think some people are probably waiting on reviews though, because the footage of the game hasn't really been the best. Welf Righam, our Patreon producer for today, he says, if the ABK deal goes through before E3 next year, how big do you think the Xbox showcase would be, or where they split it up? I mean, that's something they could do, because I don't know if it would be any bigger, because it's
they're
just Call
planning
of
to
Duty.
do BlizzCon next year.
Yeah, so there's BlizzCon. So maybe not any bigger. Maybe they'd reveal the new Call of Duty game there. But it's not like Activision has a ton of projects going right now. That would be down the road. It's like Call of Duty and then the Blizzard stuff. And you're not going to be showing off Candy Crush or King at these things.
Why not?
I don't I mean, I don't. Well, maybe you would. I don't know.
What if they did a 3D Candy Crush for Xbox?
I don't know about that, bro.
Exclusive, bro.
Uh,
The CMA would be pissed about that.
got a super chat here from Hargeet Channy. COD is being gimped on Xbox. In 2018, Xbox One X had higher res than PlayStation 4 Pro. Since 2019, with the renewed marketing deal with Sony, COD is the same resolution on Xbox and PlayStation. Sony is forcing parity. Well, that's what Hargeet Channy says. Thanks for being here, buddy. It's nice to see you, because normally you don't show up to the podcast. But here he is. Replicant says, only on Xbox 2 could I get a deep Nick Clegg cut. I guess. that's why everybody listens to Xbox 2 for the deep Nick Clegg cuts. Yes.
Nick Clegg is certainly a type of cut.
Yes. We have a question here
missing a letter.
From Patreon member Elijah Vasquez saying, with the Persona 3 and 4 re-releases being natively upgraded to current gen exclusively on Xbox consoles, do you believe we'll continue to see more releases with current gen updates locked behind certain platforms in the future? Jez? Because this apparently is a thing that the Xbox versions are native next gen and like PlayStation versions aren't, or something.
That is surprising. That kind of contradicts the whole conspiracy theory that Sony wants devs to have parity, right? But at the same time, Atlas could just be like, well, Microsoft has smart delivery and you guys don't. So maybe it's revolves around that fact or something. Atlas is so strange. They're like ignored they ignored Xbox fans for years, and now we're getting an exclusive native port of Persona 5.
It very well could be smart delivery, and PlayStation doesn't have that. So I don't know. Well, I guess we'll just have to wait and see. But I don't know. He brings up the question of like current gen updates locked behind certain platforms. Like, oh, if you want the next gen version of such and such game, like
you mean like if it was money hatted or something.
Like, yeah, if Gotham Knights had a 60 FPS mode, but it was money hatted to only be available on PlayStation, so Xbox was left with the 30 FPS mode.
Yeah.
I think those are the sort of things the parity clause are supposed to stop. Like if you're doing 60 on that platform, then you have to do 60 on our platform type of thing.
Yeah. Maybe.
Wolfgang says, while I laugh at the recently coined and very misused organic term, Game Pass seems to be building many relationships with some indie devs, some as an extension of previous Games with Gold relationships, like Origami to Origami 2. Metal Hellsinger has the same composers as well. Paradox Interactive, EU Stellaris, Eden Chronicles. Do you think Xbox will turn those into acquisitions, securing more subgenres, or prefer to keep this relation? Oh, with acquisition talk.
It's, I think anything with regards to acquisitions beyond Activision ain't going to happen until Activision's sorted out. I mean, Microsoft have been pretty transparent that they want to do more. They want to do more. They want to do more. They keep saying it. We want to do more acquisitions because, Game Pass is kind of like to Microsoft what VR is to Meta right now. It's kind of like this is their bet for Xbox's future, is that it's going to be subscription stuff and it's going to be all about, finding players where they are, reducing the barriers, letting them play the games on their TV or their phone or their laptop or their Chromebook, evidently, from this week's news cycle. Oh, that cracks me up so much because, same week Stadia was killed and then Google's like, hey, we've got Chromebooks with Xbox Cloud Gaming on them. Oh, man, so funny. But anyway, that's their big bet for the future. So whether that's maybe like the Activision deal makes them think twice about trying to go for a publisher this big. Maybe they just try and go for smaller indie studios from now on, but I don't know. It's going to be irritating. Maybe they just decide, you know what, let's just go full-blown money hatting, like Sony. Let's do a big old Sony. Sony all over the place, they'll say. Sony here, a bit of Sony there, throw a bit of Sony in this pocket, throw a bit of Sony in that pocket, Maybe get Final Fantasy back, get the COD marketing deal back for a little bit of Sony all over the place, right?
Sean in the chat says, have you heard any news about acquisitions on the cards?
Nah. There's a lot that seem to make sense from an analytical perspective, like, Asobo, they're doing obviously the deal for Plague Tale Requiem, which is rumored to be quite excellent. You know, I haven't played it myself, but I'm hearing very good things. And then you've got like Flight Simulator, obviously, which has done very well for Microsoft. Indeed, you know, there's a lot of super duper hyper fans of Flight Simulator, even though
That's
me
a
and Rand are
versatile
not.
studio, Jez.
They
And
are,
I
they
do
are very
think
nice.
Xbox, if given the chance, should pick them up. If you're a studio that can go from Flight Sim to a studio that can do a Plague Tale, that is some.
It's intriguing.
Like, yeah, that is some. Like, that's almost like Playground going from Forza to Fable. That is definitely a
Which
studio
we don't know if they're good at it yet.
And look how efficient they were in
Yes.
an era where everybody's doing 4 to 5 to 6 year developments of games, right? During a pandemic, Sobo was able to get out the sequel to Plague Tale in 3 years, which during a pandemic, which is super impressive. And as we know, Xbox seems to have right now a problem with games taking too long or longer than they should. So, you know, yeah, get a Sobo. I mean, the acquisition stuff, you know, who knows? Like, these things, they're not probably worried about it until Activision closes, and then we'll see. Silas wants to know, what do you guys think the next gameplay innovation will be? It seems as though over the last few console generations, the innovation has been from the tech side, like cloud gaming, faster loading through SSDs, online gaming infrastructure, 60 FPS being more standardized, and the usual graphics sound progressions. In my mind, Battle Royale has been the last big paradigm shift in regards to actual gaming. Is there something down the road that could be on the level of 2D to 3D or open world games? Now, that is a question. Because I've also thought that myself, right? Like, one of these things where it's like, what is the next best, like the next innovation innovation? And it almost might be like what Fortnite's doing. Kind of. Like, Fortnite is just this, it's a game, but it's also like just a place to hang out. You know what I mean? With your friends.
Is it?
Kind of. I mean, that's why it's so big with everybody. And then it has like...
Do you hang out there?
I don't hang out, but I'm just saying, like, you know, you have like all this different multimedia properties, you know, the Marvel characters, Xbox characters, PlayStation characters. Like, it sort of is just this amalgamation of just pop culture into... Now, that may just be because Fortnite's just the way it is, but when you look at, like, the games that kind of sprouted up during the 360 gen, it does still seem like most of these games are following the sort of gameplay elements that we saw like pop up during that generation. And I will say, like, multiplayer wise, you're right, probably Battle Royale is the last big like new thing. See, the thing is, I'm not a very creative person. I think I've always told you guys this. So, like, for me to think of like what is the next big shift, I don't really know. And I don't even know what I would even want. Like, if you would have told me 5 years ago, 6 years ago, that I would love Battle Royale, I would have said you're joking. Because I remember seeing the trailers for PUBG when it was on PC and thinking, that looks like trash. It's not fun, right? Hating on it. I was a hater. And then I played it and fell in love. So most of the time, I don't think people even know what they want. They don't know what they want until they're given it. And that's on like the developers to come up with stuff. And maybe we've reached a limit of interactivity in games. Some people would say, well, what about like, you know, like either Kojima doing movie type stuff or like Hellblade with the story, things like that. But even still, or like Immortality that recently came out that people seem to love, like FMVs and things like that. But
FMVs are out in the 90s, man.
I know they are, but the interactivity of it, I guess, is more what I was talking about rather than the FMV itself.
I think when if cloud hits critical mass and they do get it on everything, and we do get like a sort of, I don't know, a zeitgeist similarly to how Netflix grew.
Yeah, but
if we do get that for Xbox cloud gaming, I think the cloud could cloud plus AI stuff could enable experiences that we can't even imagine right now. I think like one of the one of the big innovations has to be some of the stuff OpenAI is doing, where it's like, right now we have procedurally generated maps. We have like a Minecraft with procedural generation for maps and stuff. But what if we get procedurally generated NPCs that have procedurally generated quests that are actually good? And like, I'm not talking about like, do you remember when Skyrim was announced? They made a big deal of what did they call it now? The radial quest system or something like that. Someone in chat might remember. It was basically like, those radiant quests, right? So like randomly while you're traveling around Skyrim, like an NPC might run up and be like, "Oh, please save this NPC in this like random cave," and that was like what they called their radiant quest system. But it was really shallow, But like you have to assume with AI, they could be like a world where we get the next generation of that, where it's actually not shallow and it's actually like it's actually really cool, and the generates like actually interesting stories and interesting bosses and interesting situations. If you train an AI how to do it, because that's what has to happen. You have to train the AI or whatever, which is why like those. When it first started, those AI image generators were really laughable, but like the latest generation of them are getting a bit scary. Like it's like a lot of artists are probably looking at some of this shit concept art and thinking, oh shit, that's a bit worrying, But yeah, and the interesting thing about that is Microsoft has exclusive rights to OpenAI for commercial purposes, thanks to their funding of the consortium. So. Yeah, AI is probably going to be a big deal, but how long away is it? I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't know. But like to his question about gameplay innovation, I don't know. Well, I don't think anybody can really predict that. I think it's just something that happens, and yeah. Governor Grimm, he says in the Patreon, as it's Halloween season, what horror IP do you think Xbox should revive or push to be associated with the Xbox? Also, I always thought Supermassive made a ton of sense for Xbox acquisition due to the serialization of their output and how well it lined up with Game Pass. Why do you guys think Xbox really hasn't created anything episodic for Game Pass? The episodic thing, I think they've tried. They did stuff with Telltale. Was it Telltale who did Tell Me Why? The people who did Tell Me Why. Was that Telltale Games or was that somebody else? Jez, help me out here.
Tell me why. No, that was the Life is Strange people. Don't Nod.
Was it Don't Nod? Okay, so they released an episode a week, and then we've also just had As Dusk Falls, which is episodic as well, and they just released it all at once. I wonder if there's some sort of metrics where it shows that people don't want episodic in games, and they're just following the data. Because even the last Life is Strange game came out with everything. Remember when Hitman 1 was all episodic, and then for the Hitman 2 and 3, it was everything all at once? I just think episodic may work for some TV shows. Shout out to Paris Lily, who's over at the Kind of Funny Spare Bedroom. He goes on about how like episodic is the way of the future, and I hate that because I like to binge. But I feel like maybe episodic doesn't work, and they have the data to show that, and that's why they haven't really done anything. Because it's not like they could have done episodic for As Dusk Falls, but they didn't. So I don't know. Maybe they have the data that says no. As for horror IP, I would have said Silent Hill. Bring back Silent Hill, but like sounds like Silent Hill is being brought back, but that's more going to be associated with PlayStation. Like timed exclusivity wise is the rumor, the going around or whatever. There's multiple Silent Hill games. Dead Space is being brought back, but that's not really have anything to do with any platform. And you have Callisto Protocol as a horror game, survival game, but that seems to be associated with the PlayStation brand. I'm trying to think what other Resident Evil horror, but that's another one associated with PlayStation, at least for marketing purposes, which used to be associated with Xbox. And I remember Xbox had the marketing for, I think it was 5 and 6, I want to say. What horror? I'm trying to think of other horror titles, and I just can't think of any more out of those.
I want them to bring back the Evil Within.
Yeah, I mean, they have their own Evil Within that they could do. They could make.
You know, when I was playing Scorn, I just kept thinking of the Evil Within. Like some of the later bosses, it's really weird about the Evil Within because not a lot of people got to the second half of the game, evidenced by the fact that completing the game is a rare achievement. But I mean that could be Game Pass inflating it, I guess. But the second half of the game is amazing, and there's some bosses at the second half of the Evil Within 1 that are just absolutely nuts. There's like a sewer boss that's like Fatbergs.
No, what's that?
Like a Fatberg. You probably got a different word from America. Well, maybe you don't even get them in America. But in the London sewer system, which was designed in Victorian times, they often get blocked with fat and wet wipes and feces, basically, and they form what is colloquially termed Fatbergs, which is just giant icebergs of disgusting, fetid waste. And one of the bosses towards the end of Evil Within is basically a living fatberg. It is absolutely disgusting. It is vile. And it makes me sad that not a lot of people have experienced this boss because I absolutely love it. And I wish they'd bring that series back, but it sounds like not Shinji Mikami, but it sounds like the studio doesn't want to work on horror anymore. They don't want to be known as a horror studio, they said, which is sad. Tango Gameworks.
Okay.
Oh, well.
We have Super Chat here from Space Channel 5. She says, sorry, boring, but I'm a fan and trans woman and am a gamer. I'm all old and love like Iridium from the ZX81 days.
Oh, wow. Well, thank you very much for that. I never played any of those super old things. My first console was a Master System that I owned. I played an Atari 2600, but it was my uncle's. What was your first console?
I had a ColecoVision and I had an Atari. Wow, I forget which Atari, but I mean the first one I really remember is the NES. Mike Tyson's Punch Out and stuff. I know you guys can hear Shakespeare barking, but yesterday was an interesting day because Shakespeare, who's never had an accident in the house, had diarrhea 5 different times yesterday in the house.
Oh my God!
Over the floor,
Shakespeare.
On the carpeting. It just all of a sudden he stood up and just poop came out.
Oh my God!
Just poop.
Oh my God!
And he went into one room, just trailed poop behind him, and then went back in the other room and just trailed poop behind him. I was just like, oh my God! And it happened 5 times. That was fun.
Did you clean it up?
Yeah, I had to clean it up. Yeah.
That'd make me gag so much.
Yeah.
Oh man. Sometimes like a cat never pooped in the house, but cats love to be sick sometimes.
Yeah, they do.
Sometimes my cat will go outside and eat a bunch of grass and then throw up everywhere, hairballs and mouse guts and all kinds of weird stuff. Oh well, pets are fun.
Clarence Boddicker says, first of all, I would just like to say thank you to both of you for all the fantastic content you both do. You really make my Fridays. My question for the podcast this week is, once the Activision deal has been resolved, what is the likelihood that Xbox will go for Asobo Studios? I mean, I hope they do. I hope it's on their list of studios to get. Have either of you heard any rumors or murmuring that they are interested, as they seem close? And to me, it would be a perfect fit. I mean, they have the 10-year deal with Flight Sim, so
yeah,
they're working close with Microsoft on that. Selfishly,
I think the studios that make the most sense are Asobo, Certain Affinity, and maybe some other support studio. Yeah. I think they need to lock down Certain Affinity so they can avoid another Iron Galaxy situation. But will they actually? Who knows?
That they do. He goes on to say, selfishly, I love them to eat up the whole Focus Home Interactive, as I think they'd publish some great content. Also, just thought on the Activision deal, I know you guys have talked about this already, but what do you both think of the chance it will go through? I mean, I still think it's going through, and so does Jez. I'm
at like 90% right now.
Yeah, I feel confident, as I feel Sati would not so publicly come out and say he is very, very confident it will happen. If he did not know something we all don't, and I guess he is privy to a lot more than all of us. Last thing, I'm sorry, this is a big post. This may be for Jez for more being a fellow Brit. I've heard that Phase 2 of the CMA's investigation is dealt with by a completely different panel than the one that conducted the Phase 1 investigation. And this is why Microsoft have come out swinging so hard at them, as burning their bridges does not matter so much as there's a completely new set of people looking into it. As some have said, it might not have been such a good idea to criticize the very individuals that are looking into your deal. I just wondered if you knew if this was true at all. Thank you so much for all you do, lads. Cheers. We'll be listening to you live. Friday drink at its tradition here.
Yeah, I don't know the mechanics of the way the CMA works, but from what I understand, yeah, like the second panel is supposedly supposed to be the slightly more competent panel. The first panel is just sort of like, you know, just sort of surface level investigation, and clearly they don't understand the games industry. Hopefully they get some people who are a little bit more specialized, and you'd think that have specialized people because the UK game industry is massive. You know, it's absolutely massive. It's one of our biggest industries, and it's absolutely absurd that our government is so technologically illiterate at every level. Can you tell that I just hate the British government?
Yeah, I can
absolutely tell. I hate them. I lose sleep over this. You know, you talk about hate, you know, and hating companies and stuff. I actually do hate the British government, like viscerally hate, and I wish misery on them, actually. But anyway, I digress.
Wolfgang wants to know real impact on the verified Game Pass revenue figures, other companies' investments and studios. I mean, we don't know the other investments from other companies or whatever, but I mean, Microsoft is going to take that money and reinvest it into Game Pass and just get more stuff for Game Pass and more studios to put more games into Game Pass. I mean, it's just, we always say it needs to feed the beast. That's why they bought Activision. You know, they got the mobile play. You got their push on PC. Yeah. You got Call of Duty and all that content, and Bethesda content, and Xbox Game Studios content. It's all about that. They're investing very heavily into it because they see it as the future. That tied with like cloud services and cloud gaming, and you know, the console for the hardcore, and boom, there you go. You know, what other we got here? We have Bailey says, "Hey Jez, what do you hope to see from the Minecraft Live tomorrow?"
I want to see more Tiny Jens and Tiny Agnes because I think they're amazing. I want a whole game with Tiny Jens and Tiny Agnes. Like, if you don't know what the hell I'm talking about, whenever they're doing Minecraft Live, they do these like little pixel art cartoons with Tiny Jens and Tiny Agnes, who are like the two lead devs on Minecraft, and it's just so cute. And I kind of want a full game. I want a full platformer that's just Tiny Jens and Tiny Agnes now. But anyway, I kind of know everything that's going to be announced on Minecraft Live, so it's kind of cheating to ask me.
Will I care about anything there then?
Well, you don't like Minecraft, do you?
No.
But I'm pretty excited about it.
Okay. We have Childish Bambino says, Jason Schreier confirmed that Modern Warfare 2 will get an expansion and campaign DLC. Any thoughts on price and if it will only be DLC for the campaign and if they'll split the player base? My thoughts on this is next year's the first year that they're not going to have a new Call of Duty. And that's a significant amount of revenue to lose, not being able to sell a new box Call of Duty. So what better way to kind of minimize that by having Modern Warfare 2 get significant DLC and campaign where you can sell essentially, because the rumor is that they're getting like a map pack with like all the favorite maps from Treyarch and Sledgehammer and Infinity Ward and campaign DLC. So like maybe you could sell that as like a $50 thing or $60 and essentially have like, you know, not like a full release, but something that would, you know, minimize the loss of releasing a new COD, right? At least that's what I thought of it. It was like, oh, okay, well that must be their answer to it. I mean, as far as splitting the user base, yeah, I mean, that's just, I don't know what to say to that. I mean, I thought we were kind of over the days of paid map packs. But if there's one franchise that could bring it back and probably be successful with it is Call of Duty.
Man, if they bring back map packs on top of battle passes, on top of retail versions, it's beyond wanting your cake and eating it. What is the next level of wanting your cake and eating it? It's like wanting your cake and eating it, and then doubling it, and then I don't know, fucking it or something.
Jeez.
Yeah, I went there. Oh man, I'm going to hell. Hey, you've seen American Pie,
The what?
surely. You've seen American Pie.
I've seen
right?
American Pie. Of course I have.
He fucks the apple pie.
I know he fucks the apple pie, Jez.
So Bobby Kotick wants to have the apple pie,
And he
wants to eat the apple pie, and he wants to fuck the apple
Jesus.
pie. Oh, this podcast is definitely demonetized.
Yeah, thanks, Jez. Appreciate it. Let me try to find more.
Oh my god.
More questions in the chat.
Oh god, I'm so sorry, everyone. I might have to edit that out for the audio version. Oh dear. You think Blue Wire would be happy with that analogy? I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe
Yeah, I
will.
might. Yeah, I don't know if iTunes will. I literally might have to edit that out. Or at least tag the episode as explicit. But that Joe Rogan guy smokes weed on his podcast. Why can't I talk
Whatever.
about fucking pie?
We can. Brad Myers says, "Would you like to see Microsoft and Ebb Software partner again another game after Scorn?" I don't know. I need to play Scorn before I make my judgment on that. Apparently, Jez says I'll like it, so my expectations are low. So maybe I'll test it out, and if I like it, I'll be like, yeah, I would like to see them team up. I don't know. We'll see. Would you like to see them partner up again, or for a first time? Because I don't really see them partnering up. It's more like a Game Pass deal, but
Who?
with the people that make Scorn, like actually make a, like a global publishing game together or something.
Yeah, maybe. I think like they need a combat designer first. Maybe. It feels like a lot of indie studios start out this way, where they're just sort of like they make basically like an exploration game. Like they get to do the art assets and all that kind of stuff, and then like actual gameplay mechanics seem to be like this sort of secondary thing, and that's like the next level maybe for some studios. So I think if they do partner up with the team behind Scorn, they need to look at the pitch would need to be right. It need to be the right project. It need to like deliver maybe more interactivity, maybe more of a game and less of an interactive art piece, because that's what Scorn is. And I know there's nothing wrong with that, but it's not something I'd pay for. I honestly, if it wasn't for Game Pass, I probably would never have played Scorn, because I wouldn't pay money for that kind of game, to be honest. But I still want to play them, but I also don't want to pay money for it. So that's
I feel you.
That's why. Game Pass is so good for
your
this
fake
kind of game.
asked you, will the Sim 5s be announced soon or this month?
Sims
5.
I don't know anything about Sims. For anything related to EA, you need to ask Tom Henderson.
Yes.
He seems to be the EA guy. Tom Henderson knows everything about EA on Twitter and Insider Gaming. I don't know jack about EA. I don't think I've ever had an EA leak. Have I? I think I knew something about Battlefield back by accident.
Darren says,
I don't know much about EA.
Do you think the ABK deal could have gone through if Microsoft was offensive from the start and declared all future ABK games exclusive and would fight tooth and nail to make the deal happen? I think this was going to play out like this no matter what. It's a huge deal. It's going to get scrutinized as it should get scrutinized. I'm just not sure everybody thought the CMA would basically blindly parrot Sony's position on it.
I think what they with regards to I'm getting really tired now. God, we've been going for 4 hours.
Almost 4 hours. We're almost approaching 4 hours. Yeah, we're gonna end soon, Jez.
This one. What were we even talking about? What was the question?
The question was about ABK and if they just made all the games.
Oh right, yeah. I think it's better that they didn't, because it's kind of like poker. You don't want to play all your cards, right? Or some card game anyway. I don't know if it's poker specifically, but you don't want to play your hand straight away, right? So I think it's good that they left some wiggle room potentially, because it's kind of like if they did say, oh yeah, all the games are going to be on Thingamabob, and then it just sailed through regulators, then they basically gave away everything for nothing, right? You don't want to do that. But Microsoft knew it was going to boil down to Call of Duty at the end of the day, so they at least did get out in front with that. And honestly, that is all it's about. It's about Call of Duty. I don't think Sony really cares about the rest of it. They don't care about Guitar Hero. They don't care about StarCraft coming back or anything like that. It's all about that Call of Duty money at the end of the day. It's about that Call of Duty marketing deal. It's
Mm.
about losing that sort of, the identity they seem to have built for themselves, that we are the platform of Call of Duty. Look at all the free shit you get. Look at this glowing, gun that you get for free if you join PlayStation's version or whatever. So, yeah, I don't think they should have played their hand entirely, but yeah, I think I'm with Rand that it would have probably gone this way either way, which sucks because they're supposed to work for us. They're not supposed to work for Sony.
Lucas Augustus says, Jez, the CMA quotes your article for midnight, by the way.
Yeah, we talked about that. I'm pretty sad about that actually, because they ignored my article that explained why it was a good thing for everyone, and for some reason used my article which talks about a game that isn't even officially announced, which makes no sense. It just, again, it's another scrap of evidence of pure and utter incompetence, I guess.
Yeah. All right. That is going to be it for the show. Thank you guys for being here for almost 4 hours. You guys are amazing. Always support us more than, like my wildest dreams with everybody being here. I can't believe we talked like for the first hour about really nothing, and 4 hours later you got like 800 people here. So it's
guys are awesome.
It's amazing. Thank you guys so much. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe if you're new. We've got the Patreon tier for all different sorts of tiers for support. One of them being the ultimate podcast we do, I think, twice a month, which that is up. Well, there's 2 episodes up if you want to listen to that. And yeah, what else we got here? Oh, RDX Sunfet says, how far away is the Halo BR? Best guesstimation 2024, my guess.
Yeah, I think 2024 at this point. I've heard season 5 floated around now, which is definitely not next year. So, yeah.
So, yep. We'll be back next week on October 21st with another episode, and who knows what we'll be talking about then. But thank you all so much, and I hope you have a great weekend. I'm about to get some food because I am starving. 4 hours doing a podcast, and I haven't eaten anything. My tummy is a rumbling. And then I'm going to watch
Yummy.
some Cyberpunk End Runners and maybe download Scorn. Try this thing out. And
do it, bro.
Hope everybody has a great weekend. We'll see ya. And keep it gaming. Later.
Later.